All right, we are live. All right, welcome folks at home to another episode of Monday Night Live on the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July. No stream last week, obviously.
10-finger check, make sure everybody's got their fingers this week.
Yeah, no firework accidents. We all survived. I actually didn't spend any money at all this year on fireworks, which is amazing. The kids had a box of fireworks stored in the basement, and we kind of got those out, and some of them went off. Some of them didn't, but it was okay.
Well, so we made this is the first year that we had some issues with the family dog. I don't know if I told you about that. We'll talk about that later.
No, I didn't know.
Everything's good now, but leading up to that, and she's deathly afraid of fireworks, like unfortunately most dogs are. And we didn't do anything at my mom and dad's house like we always do. And we told ourselves we were only going to spend a little bit of money, and a little over $100 bill later, it was like, dang it, we did it again. So
yeah,
we waited till the 4th at like 10 o'clock to buy our fireworks.
That's the way to do it, man. See, I forgot to get some whistling bottle rockets for these geese back here, and I got to get reloaded on my M100s.
Yep.
But I can go down to Boomland and Sykes, and I can get fireworks any time of the year.
Exactly.
But
well, just
I've only got.
That's one of my stops. I'll stop.
Okay. Yeah, because I've got 2 of those M100s left, and I've got 30 geese out there, and I got them trained, man. I got them trained.
When you open the door, they leave.
Yeah, I throw whatever's on the kitchen cabinet. If there's like an old cutie, tangerine or clementine, and they're too close, I'll launch it off the back deck. And I haven't hit one yet, but I can scare them. So sometimes you got to get physical. You actually got to hit one of them to let them know.
You got to be like over at Chad probably knows about this. Over at Egypt, they wrap the banks with wires so that they don't get up in the lawns. Yeah. Step over that wire, and if you put a car battery on both sides of it, then you get it hot and get it really going.
Keeps the kids off your grass too.
That's right. That's right.
So, welcome to the show, Chad. How's it going, man?
Oh man, it's all going good. Thanks for having me. It's been a while since we've talked. There's been a little bit of water underneath the bridge, to say the least. Some changes, pretty big changes going on for me, for sure. But it's always good to get back. The last time we were together and had a show, the response for quite a time frame afterwards was pretty significant, and I greatly appreciate all the comments and all the support and all the guys that logged in and reached out. I actually heard from a lot of people that I hadn't heard from in quite some time, so it's always good to get back to your roots. Always.
Yeah. So for those of you that are on here that didn't see the last episode when Chad was on here, he's a local boy, from, is it Tamora, Illinois? Is that right? Tamaroa, right. And you worked with the Carbondale Fire Department for quite a while before you started your fishing career. Is that right?
13 years. Yeah.
Okay. It's funny. It wasn't too long after the last show I went to Pinckneyville City Lake and caught them good, man. I gave you a shout out in that video because I was in your stomping grounds over there. But that's a good little lake.
Swim jig, if I recall.
Yes, sir. Swim jig. That was a day. That was a good day.
You need to take more of that kind of stuff.
That lake's got some fat ones in there. I mean, they don't always bite, but when they do, it's a really good day.
Yeah, sorry.
We still need to get over some of those strip pits over there.
Yeah. So, did you fish any of those strip pits back when you lived over there, like in the Pyramid State Park area?
Yeah. Occasionally I did. And of course, I fished. I had the privilege of fishing at Gander Hill there, which is a big strip pit there in Pinckneyville. It's privately owned, but now I guess. Well, according to my brother, Brad, he runs the new place there in DeSoto that they've just opened up, 4,000 or 6,000 acres with a bunch of pits. And they're working on getting boat ramps and everything in over there. So I haven't been on any of those, but I have. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I terrorized the ones that you could legally get into, and maybe a few of them you maybe weren't supposed to get into. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't recall the incident, but maybe.
Yeah. Cannot confirm or deny.
No, cannot confirm or deny any of the big fish that was caught out of any console.
I was going to say, was it worth it?
Yeah, I would think it would be if a guy was to do something like that.
Sure, yes, right.
long as you don't get caught, right?
What is it? In the famous words of George Cochran, no trespassing usually means good fishing.
That's a quote of the night, man.
I love it. I love it.
Let's see here. I put a question out before the stream started. What's the hot bait on your lake right now? And we've got a few people chimed in. Daniel T says the hot bait yesterday on his local lake would have been a stick of dynamite because they weren't biting anything else that day. And
I'd have to tend to agree to that because yesterday was by far 2022's worst day of fishing for me. I had one fish that got boated yesterday.
It takes a real man to admit that he only caught one fish on a live stream, which I've been there too, man.
And I have live scope. I have it's all there. It's all at your disposal. So those guys that are on here that are you have live scope because you can go out there and catch them anytime. No, you cannot. I promise you, there's days that you're going to get skunked or catch one fish, and it's very, very humbling to say the least. So,
but to your defense, you did throw a big glide bait for quite a while.
I did. I spent about an hour and a half throwing a 9-inch, 9-inch. I don't know how big it was. It's heavy and it's a lot of work to throw that big glide bait around all day. So, but to zero avail, no followers, nothing.
But I think if you would have taken that hour and a half that you had put into the glide bait, and fished, you would have probably caught 10 fish.
Yeah, but I was also
I got your back, man.
I know. I was also, Chad knows the body of water. I was over on Cedar, but I was also searching for some stuff to go put a hurting on them fall tournaments this year.
Some sneaky stuff.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
So there's no secrets over there anymore, though. So
there's no secrets really anywhere, to be quite honest with you. It seems like, with everybody's on the same playing field as far as being able to get the same electronics. Now it comes down to just understanding the fish, triggering them to bite, seeing them a little bit farther out, knowing where they're at, not running over them before you actually see them. There's just a wide variety of things now. I've witnessed so many things since I've been on the Elite series that just blows your mind. I mean, the easy ones everybody finds. Shoot at Pickwick, for instance, the last event that I fished, there was a school of fish, and it was probably one of the largest schools that was even on that river at that time, as far as sheer numbers. It was insane when you graphed them, if you graphed them at the right time, how many was there. And it was within about 3 to 4 miles of takeoff. And I think I was in the 70s that day on the first day of takeoff. It's like 74 or something like that. There was 5 boats on them and 2 trying to get on them. I didn't even check up. I was just like, oh my God, I knew this was going to happen, And, but the way that they reacted over a couple of days because of the pressure and the guys that were targeting those fish was insane. The ways that you had to fish for them to continuously to try to get them to bite. It was just crazy. It got to the point where me and KJ Queen were on that school together for a couple of hours on the first day. I finally got on them in the afternoon, and we literally had to sit side by side on spot lock, turn all of our electronics off, and make as long as cast as we could out of the back of the boat to get a bite. That's the honest truth. I mean, it's crazy, but a lot of things.
Besides the fact of being tough and they've been beat up like that, on Thursday on the Elite Series on a TVA fishery, you're going out and you've got the first shot at the school. What's your reaction when somebody pulls up on you, or do you enjoy fishing rub rail to rub rail, or do you just want to be alone? Because I wouldn't personally like that, fishing rub rail to rub rail and on the biggest stage in fishing.
Oh, it's horrible. And, depending on who's with you in that scenario. So go back just a little bit, day one, you try to get on that school, you get on it. Your reaction is, we're just starting the game. You can pick a couple of different scenarios here that you can play out. You can either be an ass about it and you can lock it up, but you're only going to get it until you leave it. That's it. Once you do that, they aren't going to let you back in because somebody will constantly be there and they'll know what you've done to them. They may or may not honor your wishes there, depending on who it is. But or you can say, look, come on in, because I know you're going to be here. You're going to be on an earlier boat out the next day. I may want to try to get on them. And that's what happened on that school the first day with me. I pulled up. Those guys were there. I didn't even stop. I went by. I came back. Couldn't get on it. Left. Came back, and there was only KJ there. And I think I had 3 at that time. And before I ever got up there, I just stopped, shut up the motor way away, and I said, KJ, I was like, look, I've been trying to get on here for 3 times now, and I haven't been able to get here. I said, obviously, I found those fish in practice. I said, I'm early out tomorrow. I said, if you allow me to come in there and fish with you, I will do the same for you tomorrow, because more than likely I'm going to beat you out. I didn't know what boat number he was, but there was only a few of them ahead of me the second day. And he said, no, come on in. And I feel like I approached it in the right manner. And we both just worked on the school of fish and done what we could with them. But he put it on me for about the first hour. And if it hadn't have been for a 4-pound smallmouth that I caught, it would have been ugly. But it was real weird how he was targeting him. He outcaught me probably 3-1 for the first hour. And then in the second hour, I outcaught him probably 3-1. And finally to the point where he just left. He did better overall in the tournament because he had a pretty good stringer before he came. So he was only culling 1 fish, but he culled it several times. But it was just for ounces and ounces and ounces every time he caught one. So, but you can do it a bunch of different ways, but you got to know there's going to be another derby. There's going to be another day, and it's you either call the spot and you know what you got to do that day. You got to burn it up, and that particular instance, I knew that the size wasn't in that school to do real well. It was just a filler deal. So,
yeah, I mean, communication is so key. I've had a couple videos in the last 2 years talking about lake fishing etiquette and how to handle certain situations, and it happens quite often. I wouldn't say every time I'm out, but if I go out 5 times, 3 of those times I'll come into a situation where somebody kind of cuts me off or comes in between me and the bank. And I'm not a clickbaity type video person. So I don't do those videos, but every once in a while, I'll have a little stretch where some extra rude type things happen and I'll cut a video on that. But it's, for me personally, it used to really bother me, but now it doesn't bother me. A tournament situation is a little different, but when you're out fun fishing, I think the best way to handle that is just like what you said, just conversate, talk to somebody, let them know, hey, I'm fishing here. We can both hit fish here. A lot of times it's you're fishing out off the bank and you're casting towards the bank and somebody's coming right down the grass line and they cut right in between you and the bank. And, you're literally casting, you could cast in their boat, no problem. And they won't look at you. They keep their head down. They got their hoodie up. They're just focused forward and they act like you're not even there. And all you got to do is say, hey man, do you mind if I come through here? Because I'm going to say, yeah, that's fine. No big deal.
Yeah, because that's not the fish that you're fishing anyway.
Right. Well, but it's just the fact that you acknowledge the situation and say, hey, how's it going? You doing any good? Just some small talk, just a little bit of small talk. And then everything is cool instead of just acting like nothing's going on and you don't know what you just did, but right. It doesn't burn me as much. I kind of laugh at it now because everybody's in, different walks of life. And some of the people are new to the fishing, game, not really game, but maybe they haven't fished a whole lot. That happens a lot of times on holidays. You see there's a crop of people that only fish a couple times a year and maybe they don't know, how to manage a bank or how just to be cordial and talk. But it happens. And it seems to be more and more prevalent. More people are on the bodies of water with COVID. There was like so many people on the water and all that stuff was going on out there in the water. It's settled down a little bit, but there's still some spillover from those newer people that started fishing that are still out there. And we've got kayaks. We were talking about a lot of the kayaks. You really see a lot of kayaks over in the Southern Illinois area. A lot of them are just pleasure boater kayaks, but a lot of them are fishing and stuff. And so you just got to talk, we're all out there to have fun. We're all out there to chase a passion and do something that we enjoy. It's a stress relieving way to spend the day. And if everybody just talks, it'll go a lot better. So that's my 2 cents on the situation.
Yeah. Same here. you're going to catch a lot more bees with honey than you are with vinegar. So you know what I mean. You can choose to set the stage however you want, but expect the same in return. You know, if you come across a little bit gruff and think that you own that body of water, chances are you're probably going to be explained to that you don't own it. It is public body of water, and there's nothing that you can do about that part. We've all fell into those time and time again, and it's got a lot to do with the popularity of the sport. It's just grown to, you know, such magnitude that, golly, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the only way I have a little bit of solace is to really target out, you know, middle of the week type stuff, early and middle of the week fishing. You know, there's just not that many people on the water, and you know, and obviously in real inclement conditions, you know, and you gotta make the best of all of those situations, because those are the few times that you're going to kind of have things to yourself where you could run, you know, 40 places and you're going to get 35 of them with nobody around. So just enjoy it while it goes down. You know, it's kind of one of those deals. I mean, pleasure boaters that don't get out except for on the holidays or in the summertime, and wakeboarders and jet skiers, they all have a right to be there. A lot of them don't know anything about fishing, so they don't understand the fact that they're running too close to you, or that their wake's going to really hamper what you're doing, or, you know, they may bust the fish up as they're running across, you know, at a cast distance out. I mean, we all deal with that. It's all you can do. I mean, at Pickwick, we had our first day of practice, the first day, Memorial Day. Good God. That should have been avoided. That should have been avoided at all costs. The river literally for 25 miles was muddy due to all the traffic. You couldn't hardly graph because you were rolling in wakes the whole time. And that's what most of us were doing, you know, was just riding around trying to graph schools of fish. Wasn't even fishing for them, just looking, you know, just looking. And it just adds the frustration. But it is what it is. I mean, if you're going to compete, you know, most of it's going to be on the weekends. That's when there's going to be a lot of traffic, pleasure boats, and, you know, fishermen alike that's competing or not competing. So
I think the biggest thing that everybody can take away from our conversation here tonight is just water safety. I mean, I know I've been in my John boat at Kincaid and been ran by at, you know, 15 feet from a jet ski or a pleasure boater, and that's scary enough. Even if you're in a 21-foot Phoenix, much less a 16-foot John boat.
Right.
I mean, when you can reach out and touch them upside the head, that's too close for my comfort, at least.
Yeah, so. Mine too. But I mean, you know, you just got to realize that 40 mile an hour, they aren't going to be around you very long. Just hope you know, it is what it is.
Let's jump into some of this comments here. Try to get caught up here. Scott Edwards talking about the hot baits right now. He says a beaver and jig flipped and Carolina rig French fry at Crab, jig and shaky head at Cedar, 10-inch worm at Grassy, and DK at Night. Man, Scott, you've been covering all the local lakes.
Scott's been on it.
He's been on it.
He was on here last time. It's good to hear from Scott. He's fished those lakes a long time. So I would tend to say the people that are out there listening to that advice might want to give it a try, because he definitely has done that a lot.
Yes.
I think last week we had maybe one of your best men, or you were a best man at his wedding. I can't remember who it was now. I'm sure he's on here tonight. So,
man.
Mike Long says, okay, here's a question for you. Ask Chad if he has ever fished Pool 19 on the Mississippi River when he lived in it or near it or in Illinois. Sorry.
Okay, refresh my memory if you would. Which pool is 19?
That I don't know.
I can't recall right off the top of my head. I apologize. So it very well be possible that I've been there a time or two. I can't recall which one.
I'm looking it up right now.
I've only fished, me personally, I live in Cape Girardeau, so I fished that section, but mainly for catfish. But when I used to fish the Kaskaskia River, they would have some like super bass tournaments there back in the day. They'd have like a Thursday nighter or something. I think it was out of New Athens in that area, and that Kaskaskia runs into the river right there. So that's kind of the section that I've fished in the Mississippi River, but I don't know which pool that is.
Yeah.
So Mike says
It's in Iowa. I know that.
Truman Lake, big worms or spinner baits in the trees. Okay, I can attest to that. We fished a BFL at Truman about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and one of the guys I was staying with got, I think he finished 13th, and that's exactly what he was doing, Mike. He was throwing a big 10-inch power worm around the trees in about 15 foot of water, a little bit deeper than most people were fishing because the lake was falling and those fish had kind of started to pull out.
My neighbor, I think, finished up there real well. He finished like 12th or something like that. And he was fishing a little bit shallower, but it was all point stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He was, I think he was flipping mainly. But man, I tell you, Truman, I've only been on it a few times. I did a Wounded Warriors deal for a lose there a few years ago. And I really liked it. I'm gonna hopefully get to spend some more time. That's one thing that's kind of sucks about what I've had to do for the last 19 years. Is, I haven't got to really enjoy and spend as much time as I want on all these lakes around here. I mean, I get to fish Table Rock the most, but that's because it's the closest, and it's a fishery where you can catch multi-species, and there's so many different things going at different times of the year, but I'm still learning it. I mean, I still find groups of trees now that are isolated that I didn't know existed. And I spend time doing that type of stuff now. But man, the elites and the travel and being gone, it's just part of it. You just don't get to fish a lot of the local stuff. And when you do, you won't have any practice. I'll have just showed up back home and, it's the next day or the day after that. So I'm really looking forward to getting to explore, getting to learn Lake of the Ozarks a little bit better. Now I have spent some time on there. Truman, Palmy, Grand has a lot of big events on it. So that's pretty cool lake. I fished a classic a while back on Grand, and I fished a couple other derbies on Grand, but I don't know it very well. I mean, it's just over the years I have to roll across it a few times.
Jim says, "Hi, Chad. Congrats on a stellar career so far."
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. I've been really fortunate. You know what I mean? I kind of took a chance, not being as probably prepared as I should have been, and certainly not anything like what these competitors are now coming on site. I mean, these guys coming out of college are awesome fishermen and anglers, and they, it'd be interesting to see how long their careers last. They're sticks, but there's a lot more to it than that. But again, I was very fortunate along the way. I got some really big breaks. I had a lot of luck go my way at the right times. I mean, it's just been something that I wouldn't trade for anything. And I wish that anybody that chooses to experience that would get that opportunity to do so. But I've always kind of lived my life by the thought that I guess probably some of this had to do with my previous career. I've seen so many people's lives overturned in a second's notice. And, I kind of always have applied to the theory of there's no guarantees. And that goes with everything. You don't know from one second to the next when it's going to be over for you, or, you don't know how long you've got. So, with that in mind, I've tried to live life as I could to the fullest, and that included taking some pretty risky chances along the way. With that being said, I've made some pretty major sacrifices, so has my family, for me to be able to do that. But it's also allowed me to be able to continue along that path of, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but if tomorrow gets here for me, I'm going to try my best to live it to the fullest, no matter what that is. I may not always, I don't always catch them. So, but it's nice to be able to go out there and try. So it's the people that I've met, the support I've had along the way, man, I tell you, again, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I still go to bed every night knowing that I made the right call whenever I left the fire department. And for the last 3 weeks, I went to bed at night knowing that I made the right call, that it was time to change, turn the page, start the new chapter. And that's exactly what I'm going to do.
So back up just a little bit. Last time you were on here, you kind of touched on the story. And I think it's a really good story. So the people that haven't heard this story, listen up. I think it's very interesting. So you were working with the Carbondale Fire Department, and kind of take it from there. There was a decision to be made. You know, you were into fishing and you had this opportunity, but it wasn't like the best time to jump ship, so to speak. So kind of fill everybody in on how that went down.
Well, I mean, yeah, so I'll kind of shorten it up for you so that we don't take a lot of time here. But yeah, I was 13 years into my career. I mean, I was vested in the pension. I was a captain. I had a really good shot at the next promotional opportunity to assistant chief. You know, everything was good. But along the way, I had started fishing in the qualifying events, and you know, I'd qualified twice. Now, at that time, it was the top 150s, and you know, it was decision time. I was out of vacation time. I couldn't hardly get anybody to work for me anymore for the tournaments, to go practice and everything I needed to do. I had a tremendous amount of support from my wife, who had a good job at Southern Illinois University, and had her support. She talked me into taking that opportunity and seeing what it brought for the both of us. And we basically set aside a X number of dollars, you know, for me to try it for 3 years. And I told her, I said, well, you know, if it don't go down in 3 years, I'll go to work doing something else. I mean, obviously I can't go right back to my position at the fire department, but, you know, I was vested, so they had to buy me out of the pension, which helped. That padded us a little bit more and gave us a little bit more money to live on at the time. And, you know, and then from that point on, really things just are a blur, to be quite honest with you, because, you know, I took the chance. I went down to Florida for the first event, got my butt handed to me because I didn't know what I was doing. And we hit a major cold front. And out of the money that I had set aside to last for 3 years, I'd spent nearly half of it on one event. I was like, well, this was poor planning on my part for sure. and as I said earlier, just somebody was looking out for me. Whatever happened, the next event was the next week at Okeechobee, and I finished 5th in that event in the top 150s, and I won all that money back. And then I went on that year to double qualify for the BassMaster Classic, which at that time hadn't been done that many times. So it was kind of a unique accomplishment. I had a pretty good year from that point forward, and it got the ball rolling for me, and I got some people behind me. And then very shortly after that, my title sponsor came on just shortly after that, and they carried me through some really trying times as well, but also through some good times. So it like, again, I'm not going to say if I sit here and told you it was nothing but skill involved in that whole deal, I'd be struck by lightning, because I'd be lying like a bedwetter. I'm telling you. It's just one of those deals. I mean, I just got lucky. No, it's just kind of like catching a 10-pounder during an event. You know, it's just that lucky cast, that lucky bite. And it doesn't roll around that much for me. You know, it just don't. And luckily I just was able to hang in there long enough to make it work. So, you know, and I still, looking back, I was 35 years old when that all went down. And I was late into the game at that point, and I'm certainly late into the game, or I would be late into the game now at 35, because most of the guys coming in are in that 22 to 26 year range. Mm-hmm. And, you know, just times have changed. But I guess I was real fortunate. I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very lucky, and more than just catching fish. I'm going to be honest with you, because if there was times when Jasper and Phoenix carried me through some pretty bad years, you know, to be able to go on to the next year, it's a big commitment with BASS or with FLW or MLF or any of it now. I mean, you're talking in upwards of $120,000 a year with expenses and entry fees and everything else. And that's not your home expenses, taking care of your family and everything. So, I mean, it's financially taxing beyond, at that, certainly beyond my point of being comfortable with it, I guess I could say. So, it can bury you in a hurry if you get on a bad turn right now, for sure, especially with the way the economy is going, fuel prices where they're at. I mean, it's just it's pretty rough for most of the guys, and I know that. And I do feel for them. And again, man, I took a chance. It worked out. I worked really hard at it. I sacrificed a lot, so did my family. And fans supported me unbelievably. But you know what? I can't help but to think there, and there always is. This instance will always roll up no matter what you do in life. Whether it's starting your own business, if it's a computer company, no matter what it would be. There's always those people initially, and it was the first couple of months. And there's some of my family members involved in this. Is like, you're not going to leave your job at the fire department, are you? You can't do that. That's insane. You can't. Why would you
go fishing?
You're going to lose everything that you've got. There was that chance for sure. And I thought they were right after the first event. I'm going to tell you that right now. I thought, oh my God, what have I done? But that's it. It just happened to work out. And but at the same time, I think back, I was asked a couple of times by BASS, especially early on, about the pressure. Because, I went to my first BassMaster class was in 2003. And they're like, well, what do you think about all this? It's your first one. What about the pressure and all the people? I'm like, well, it's not a life or death situation. I mean, I've been in those before. So this is just bass fishing for a living. So that kind of grounded me, and it put things in perspective. And it allowed me to take a deep breath and not get excited about the entire circumstances, although it was still very exciting. Don't get me wrong. And it was still overwhelming, to say the least. But yeah, it's one of those cross your fingers, cross your toes, and hit it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, there's something to be said about having a really, really rough start to your career, and then going on to a 5th place finish, basically coming back to square. And Chad Morgenthaler's career is probably built on the School of Hard Knocks, I bet.
Oh God, yeah.
That's the longevity of Chad's career as well, though. Not just going out and winning a couple derbies and now you got a cushion to go on and you can fish freely. You gotta make it.
You gotta grind a little bit, man.
And when you have that tough year, you don't just throw in the towel and say, yeah, I'm done. I tried it. I'm out.
Well, and to your point, exactly there. I fished bass bass and FLW combined for 19 years. And out of all the events that I fished, I've only won twice on the BASS side, and I never won on the FLW side. I finished second. I finished a bunch of top 10s and top 20s, and my career earnings are about $1.7 million. So I had to grind on it. It wasn't because I had the cushion. And there's a lot of guys like that. One of my best friends in the world, 2-time AOY, Gerald Swindle, he's never won an Elite Series event. He did win an FLW event, a tour event, but he's never won on the Elite side, and he's been doing it for 22 years. And he's one of the most talented anglers that I know, with all the experience. So, but he's a grinder. I mean, he'll do whatever it takes. If you've watched Gerald, he'll know he'll have 30 rods out on his deck, and he's going to throw all 30 of them in every tournament. That's just Gerald. He'll drive you crazy trying to talk to him during practice to figure out, well, I caught one on a jig. Then I caught one on a shaky head. Well, then I caught one on a spook. I caught 2 on a buzz bait, 1 on a glide bait. But I really ain't got nothing going. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Ultimate junk fisherman.
Ultimate to no avail. I mean, but that's just the personalities that you run into. But you learn
that's how his brain works. And that's how a lot of guys, whether you're a jig fisherman like a Denny Brower or you're a junk fisherman like Gerald Swindle, that's how your brain works. That's what you got to build to your strength. If that's how you can go put 5 together and bring them to the scales at the end of the day, that's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have a really good idea. Every time I fish in Florida, if there's a flipping bite, I'm probably going to be in the top 20. I may not win, and I may completely fail on it. I don't fail with that too much down there because it's so prevalent. But so to your point, everybody, when they fall into those tournaments that's fishing to your strengths, you're probably going to have a good derby, more than likely. It's just like Greg Hackman, when them fish are shallow and they're on a cover of some sorts, and if there's 100 of them in a 50-foot square area over 100 miles, he'll find it and he'll catch 48 of them. That's just how he is. And he knows he's going to do it when he finds them. And, but the Elite Series teaches you to be an angler that can survive in all of the situations. It's just like when I finished 3rd or 4th on the St. Lawrence River a few years ago. That was all live scope, and it was all because of Table Rock. I had trained myself to fish that way, and even Zona brought it to my attention. I wasn't even thinking about it. He goes, "You've changed." He said, "Every other top 10 I've covered you in, you're in knee-deep water or less, and now you're not." And I'm like, "Well, you've got a point." I mean, I have, and like, Tommy Biffle, Danny Brower, all those guys have the ability to catch them doing anything at any given time, and they're better than most at everything. But when it falls in their wheelhouse, you better be careful, because then, it's just like right now. I mean, the Johnson brothers are going to probably both be in the top 10 at St. John's this week. I mean, that's just almost a given. If there's a safe bet, that's it, because it just fell in their wheelhouse. Spider's going to probably be right there. Gussie's probably going to be right there. Ito, right there. Even though they don't have the experience the Johnson brothers do on that body of water, they're still extremely good at offshore fishing, and that's really where their specialty lies. That doesn't mean they're not going to catch them at the Sabine River, or they're not going to catch them at Lake Fork. That doesn't mean that, because they have figured out how to survive and to grind on it.
You got a 5th pick, so I can just finish out my
I was going to say that's
fishing,
a fantasy fishing team right there.
Exactly.
Oh, I do. I got them. I wonder if I can play fantasy fishing now.
I think you can. Yeah. I don't think it's unethical.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I've got about 10 picks, and I'll bet you I don't miss 3 of them far. Obviously, Polinick, you're gonna have to watch out for Jacobson, because they all work together. They know those areas well. Brandon's he's won there before. He's good at smallmouth. He's leading AOY. He just had a baby. He's really driven. He's hungry for a blue trophy. He's finished up there so high and hasn't won yet. He's gonna take a shot at it. So there'll be 1 or 2 slip in there that come from nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
But there you go. There's
Chad. So what's it like not packing this week? Or not being up there this week, because you'd be there right now.
I know. Thursday night, I looked at Deb. We were sitting down watching television about 7 o'clock. I said, we'd just be finishing about 14 hours right now. I said, we'd be pulling into a campground somewhere to stay the night. And I don't miss the drives. That's rough, man. It's getting to the point where I have to beat myself to get in the truck to drive 10 minutes into town right now. But it's a hard week. It's a hard week. You guys have been texting me, and I've been watching social media posts, and I know what's going down out there right now. And, it's hard. This is the hardest one because this is the first one I've missed.
Right.
This one's hard on me. It's getting easier every day, but this one's hard, and when I made the decision to finish it up a little early, those were 3 or 4 really emotional days for me. I had to reach out to all the people who supported me. I had to write my letter, of basically resignation for BASS. And I don't know. It's just, it's something like anything else. You spend 19, 20 years, you've got all these friends and basically family on the road. And you know that some of them you're going to stay in contact with, but it's not going to be the same anymore. And, it's I'm not gonna lie to you, it's hard. It's been a hard pill to swallow, just because I've been so ingrained in this. My life has been exactly that. come home for a few days, regroup, repack, get back on the road, So yeah, we're coming to terms with it good though, It is what it is. It's time to focus my attention and my efforts elsewhere. I still cannot remove that need to compete. I'm a competitive person. I'm a competitive angler. I've done it for so long, from before. I mean, Scotty Edwards knows. I mean, I was fishing, whenever I was about 23, 24 years old. I started there in that Southern Illinois area doing regional stuff, with my teams and I love it. I live for it. And, as long as I breathe, I'm going to want to compete to some extent or another. That's why, Nat, from this point forward, as far as competition goes, we got so much stuff in this area. I'm really fortunate for that. And that's part of the reason I picked to move here in Missouri. It was not only the opportunity to guide and to teach and coach and mentor whenever I passed through my Elite Series stint, but also we have solo pro stuff here. We've got other single events that are happening that are a little bit higher entry fees that are really good. What is it? Great Oaks or something like that put on a tournament last year on Table Rock that was really fun. I finished, I don't know, 7th, 8th, 9th, something like that. And in it, and we got a lot of good team trails that pay big money here. And then there's always the Toyota series that have, open divisions in it. There's the Bassmaster Opens. I don't know if I'm going to be looking at them or not as much because I don't really have a desire to get back into the elites right now. I can't see that being an issue, but if they come up with something that is interesting, I'll be there. So, but yeah, it's a weird time for me. I'm in transition right now. You guys are kind of catching me at a vulnerable time, which I guess is good and bad, right? I mean, it is what it is.
I'm just glad that we don't live in Southwest Missouri and know that Chad's going to be just taking everybody's money in these team tournaments down there.
Shoot. There's some sticks that live here. I mean, you got to look at the guys that have retired out of this place. I mean, Snowden's here, Stacy King. I mean, my neighbor Dave Mansu, he's a great angler. And then, you got Cody Huff right down the road. I mean, dude, there is James Watson lives here. I mean, it's not an easy travel, but I like that. I like that. I want that. I want it to be hard.
That's where you see a Cody Huff succeeding out of the Ozarks, a Snowden succeeding out of the Ozarks. I think Snowden's from the West Coast, though, correct?
Originally, yeah.
But there's certain places in the country that you move to get better, and
you've got
the Ozarks is one of them. The TVA is one of them. You got to be able to fish. You got to be able to hone your skills, and the only thing that you don't have down there is grass, isn't it?
Actually, we do have it in Taneycomo. So between
sleeper, man. It is.
It's a trout fishery, so
exactly, yeah. And nobody wants to catch trout on frogs.
My buddy just got back from there last night. So.
But, we got Bull Shoals, which, floods almost every year. It gets 20, 30 feet high, so there's a lot of shallow fishing and then a lot of offshore stuff. And, of course, with Table Rock and Grand, you got a diversity here. And that's my biggest contributor to becoming a well-rounded angler is the diversity, being able to see all these different fisheries and fish on them for weeks and months on end across the nation, from the St. Lawrence River to the Delta to you name it, Lake Fork in Texas, out in the Carolinas, and to see all those, it makes you a better angler. That's literally the only way that you can become so well-rounded, is to fish in all those different fisheries time and time and time again. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that.
Let's make an announcement. So we got 77 people on here, and there's some new people, some people that have not joined the stream in the past. We do something that's called a Sasquatch Giveaway. So sometime here in the next, 30 minutes or something, we're going to make a reference to Sasquatch. So whenever you hear that, guess a number between 1 and 200, and whoever guesses the number that Chad has chosen, is going to win a prize package from Cumberland Pro Lures. We got the new Bama swim jig in my favorite sneaky little color. This is, of course, you'll get a new one. It'll be in a package. This one's used. This one's actually caught a lot of fish. You may actually want this one, but great little swim jig that they just came out with.
What color was that?
This is called Houdini.
Houdini.
Yeah, I just started throwing this color around, and I'm usually a black and blue or a chartreuse shiner color, but this one is this is my new favorite color. So you're gonna get one of those for sure. And then they also came out with the pig jig this year. So you're going to get one of the pig jigs in either 3/8 or 1/2 ounce. It's still in the package, but check out the Cumberland Pro Lures website, and you can see all these lures on there. I'm going to send a pack of shaky heads as well. These are just 1/4 ounce green pumpkin shaky heads, a 3-pack. They got the screw lock in them, stand-up head. They got a nice, I think it's, I don't even want to say what kind of hook, what brand hook it is, but it's a nice hook. It's a medium wire. It sticks them pretty good, holds them. And I might throw in a pack of underspins. Might throw a pack of underspins in because it's that time of year.
Oh, you should. You really should. I think you should throw in a pack of underspins. I think you should give them a 1/2 ounce and a 3/8 ounce jig.
Okay. Hey,
he's just called you out.
Yeah. Hey, you don't want to disappoint the guests, so we're gonna honor the guests' wishes. So we will do that.
So not that he's gonna throw this in, but what would you put on the back of that underspin?
Well, you're gonna have to narrow the scenario down a little bit. I mean,
table rock right now.
Table rock today.
Tomorrow.
Table rock tomorrow on a jig. On your pig jigs. That's what you're talking about, right?
No, on an underspin.
On an underspin.
Oh. Man, I hate to talk about this right now, to be quite honest with you.
Personal. It's getting personal.
All right, Southern Illinois tomorrow.
So on Table Rock right now, there is a lot of fish offshore and a lot of fish in the tops of the trees, and an underspin is actually a really good bait to target them with, especially if you have live scope where you can really target your depth range and manage that. And anytime you're going to get a tremendous amount of bites if you use something like a 3 1/4 missile shockwave on it, some type of swim bait. But now you got to be careful because the water's hot. Okay, the water's 86 to 89 degrees right now. Anytime that happens, your swim baits with your wide swim patterns, your big boot tail stuff that has a real wide girth to it when you pull it, they don't get as many bites. You want that slimmer, more of a finesse type swim to it. That's where the shockwave or something that's got a thin boot to it, will excel for you. So, if you're going for a big bite, get up there into that 4 1/4 range size wise. But if you're going for numbers wise and you still could catch good fish, you got to get down to that 2/8, 3 1/4 range.
I see you smiling, and I know why you're smiling because I know what you throw, and that makes total sense.
Yeah.
And the lightest line that you can use on it the best. Obviously depth range and depth control is critical with that. And we are experiencing so much of that now because we're learning with it because of live scope. So now whenever I cast 80 feet and now with my new LVS 34, I can see the bait hit the water. I can control my depth range. So now I know what 12-pound line does, what 10-pound line does, what 16-pound line does, how it causes it to rise, how a 1/2 ounce underspin versus a 5/8 or a 3/4, what it does, and especially targeting trees that are in 80, 90 foot of water, but topped out at 30, 40, 20 feet. You can't get it down, but if they get to the side, and you can watch your bait and control all that. So now we're really knowing how we can get that plane, see how the fish react to it, and adjust on every cast.
That stuff's amazing, man. We got it not too long ago, and it's blowing my mind. So we're also going to give away some of these Hawgz Custom Baits worms. This is an 8-inch straight tail worm, and I call it the gangsta worm because it's so big. It's a big old fat worm. It's not going to go on that Cumberland Pro standard size shaky head. It's way too fat. Actually, this one's got a paddle tail. They got 2 different versions. So I'll send you some of each. But you're going to have to get a Magnum shaky head. Cumberland Pro actually makes a big Magnum shaky head. It's got a 7/0 hook. It's got a hitchhiker screw lock on it. It's perfect for this process. But big bites right now in brush piles, some of those offshore points, even the edge of grass. This is the kind of worm that's going to get you a bite. And you probably, well, I don't even want to say, I was going to say you probably won't catch a 12-inch bass on it, but you never know. I mean, you can't roll out anything in a 12-inch bass's mouth. They're just because you're throwing a big worm doesn't mean
I'm waiting.
suckers
That's
won't
going to be my first glide bait because I've thrown these glide baits for a couple months.
You probably catch a bluegill on
and I haven't glide bait. Caught a fish on a glide bait yet. So I've had one bite that I'm for sure it was a bite.
I tell you what, I really like to fish glide baits, but boy, they can be aggravating. And I've actually, so it's funny, as much as we fish, you would think, okay, well, glide baits, they're experts on all this. And be quite honest with you, a lot of the new industry baits and techniques take a while for us to perfect because we tend to be in the moment and in the grind. So we still fall back on our mainstays, the things that we know works. Now they might be accelerated a little bit, but the cool thing is I've really been playing with the glide baits and the mag drafts and sizes and colors and retrieves and gear ratios and line size and all that here in the last year and a half. I guess I've really started messing with it a lot, and it's amazing to me and so aggravating. Good God, the follows, the fish that will not commit to try to get them to commit, and what it's going to take, and follow up baits, and so it's addicting is what it is. I can't get enough of it, and at the same time, I don't want no more of it. And then at the end of the day, I'll come in after fun fishing and be just exhausted from throwing a 6-ounce lure all day. You know what I mean? Just like almost down, but can't wait till tomorrow to get up and do it again.
Yeah. You start thinking about it. You're like, oh, wait, I didn't try that angle. Maybe I need to go back out and try that angle, and maybe I'll catch. And you're down there throwing it in clear water too, in Table Rock, so you're seeing it all go on. Yeah.
So about 3 weeks ago, I had some friends of mine with me from Southern Illinois, and we had a phenomenal day. And it was all a glide bait and mag draft day. But then we couldn't repeat it.
That's what makes it special, man.
It was like in the first hour that we were out, like I caught 5 that were like 27 or 28 pounds.
Holy cow!
Caught like 25 again, and then and it was just like it was like stupid. And then that was it. I mean, we struggled for 3 more days trying to get it to go again. It just wouldn't happen.
So what made that day special? Was there any like weather pattern, barometric pressure?
I have no idea other than they were pulling water here, so that helped obviously. And I think I just fell on them. I mean, that just happens sometimes, right? I mean, right. You shut the boat down first thing in that morning, and you've stopped on the biggest school, the most active school. And I honestly think that's what happened. I just fell on an area that had a tremendous amount of fish on it because I'd had a bite or two there a week earlier, but there were way more there, and they were biting. And we were just there at the right time. And we were throwing the right. It was just that perfect day. It was just that perfect scenario. Everything went right, It's one of those things.
This guy right here makes some really good big swim baits. June Shoji, Dream Express Lures. Good stuff, man. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I still haven't thrown it. I'm still scared.
I've thrown it. It's nice. It's got the removable bill on it too, so it's like a giant crankbait, or it's a glider, whichever one it's a glider, whichever one you want it to be.
There's so many cool baits out there like that now. That's just amazing to me, and I can't wait to get my hands on as many of them as I can. I mean, I guess I've probably dumped $2,000 or $3,000 in the last year on just those giant baits for just those specialty conditions, And God, I hope my wife's not listening to this. I don't think I told her about that deal yet. Anyway, but yeah, I really now I've got the time to go out and play with all that stuff, and that's what's exciting to me. I'm really excited about it.
Danny Keller says hi.
How are you, buddy? Good to hear from you. I'm glad you're still around, Bob.
I started playing with those giant swim baits over at Cedar years ago, and I brought all that stuff back from Kentucky Lake.
Yeah.
And you know, I got all kinds of looks when you're throwing a 9-inch soft body swim bait on cedar, but the fish that you pull in, you may only catch 4 or 5 a day, but you catch 4 or 5 of the biggest ones on the shell bar. So,
yep, that's for sure.
Mike Long is the guy that asked about Pool 19 a while ago, and he said it's in the Dallas, Fort Madison, and Burlington area. So that's where Pool 19 is at. Yeah. Dallas City. Okay.
I'm assuming that's Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa.
Danny Keller was best man at my wedding.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense now. Yep.
Yeah.
What's up, Frankie? Good to see you in here. I'm gonna scroll down and try to catch up on some of these comments. We got kind of far behind. Yeah. So that's the way I like it, man.
June said, "Don't be scared."
That's right. Don't be scared. You don't be scared of it. Throw it. Wheel it, baby.
What do you throw your big glide baits on? Like your your rod, reel, that kind of stuff? Because it's kind of new to me.
I've got several different combinations I'm working with. I've got some of the new Super Duty stuff that's in that 6-4 gear ratio that holds a lot of line. I always use 20-pound gamma fluorocarbon. That's what I throw all my stuff on. And then I have different rod lengths and actions. A lot of it is the real long stuff because, that's the only thing that'll handle that 4-ounce and bigger stuff. I've got some Super Duty rod stuff that I've been using that I really like, and 7.6 heavy, and then they got some 7.11 extra heavy stuff. And so I'm still playing around with it, but most of it I'm looking, and I typically don't do this. I'm looking at the weights that rod is designed for by the manufacturer, because there's not a lot of references out there that'll allow you to do that. Now, Snowden is my expert on glide baits by far, and he tells me how much all of these different ones weigh. And so I'll adjust accordingly until I find the right action, and I want a parabolic rod, but at the same time, I still want something that doesn't act like a diving board whenever you throw it. And you have to be able to wheel it. That's important in clear water. You got to get it away from you. And you would think that it's really easy to throw a 4-ounce lure. It's not. You lob that thing. It's like throwing a tennis shoe. You want to know what it's like? If you've never done it, tie your tennis shoe on it, go out in the yard and lob that thing out there. That's
you don't even need water. Just lob it.
Exactly right.
Reel it back. And, a lot of guys use the reel handle to make it corner and turn and work on glide baits. Obviously, we're talking about not mag drafts or soft-sided swim baits. But I've kind of also tried to incorporate a rod twitch into it as well. And when you get that length and action rod out there, that starts getting difficult. But
we get that butt that just
yeah. And see, that's something I don't want a rod with a giant long handle on it. If it's longer than about 12, 14 inches, then I guess I don't have long enough arms or whatever the case, but it just becomes cumbersome. That one that Zaldane uses for his mag drafts, I couldn't throw that if I was in the ocean. No. You know what I mean? I would throw it over the overboard because I just can't deal with that long of a handle sticking out there. Just to me, that's not necessary. Once my hands are naturally about 12 to 14 inches apart wherever I cast that, and it's got the handle and load to that point. Yeah. That's what I'm looking for in that type of equipment.
That bait starts going, and then it starts kind of doing this, and the next thing you know, it's like it spins, and then you lose all your momentum. And there's an art to casting that right, and you got to just get out there and you got to have the right equipment, like you said, and you got to practice that cast. You can't just chuck it out there. Like you said, you got to kind of lob it out there. And
I can definitely throw a 3/8 ounce jig a heck of a lot farther than I can
no doubt
4-ounce swim bait. Yeah. For anybody that hasn't thrown a giant bait, and we're talking 3, 4, 5,
and then trying to get it to land halfway soft in the water if at all possible, but it's almost impossible to do.
It's like the first time I threw an Alabama rig and it goes kaboom.
Yeah.
And it's like
take a concrete block and drop it over the boat and make less of a splash.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And if you throw it at a dock, that's the thing is around here, obviously docks are hugely important in fishing, and you throw a $200 4 or 5 ounce bait at a dock from 50, 60 feet away, it gets ugly fast.
Well, and
Everybody knows you're in the cove.
it's not real accurate either.
No, God, no.
And you're not skipping it up underneath the dock.
You're hoping it's that day that he comes a long ways for it, because it's going a long ways from the dock. That shade line needs to be way out there.
Yeah.
Or you need a good breeze to help blows it over there. Not on top of it, but over there.
The peewee jig. I see a comment here about the peewee jig.
We're going old school, man, with the peewee jig.
I've still got a box full of peewee jigs. I don't use it probably near as much as what I should. I hate to even admit that, because I feel like I grew up on that thing. You know, it still catches fish, obviously in pretty shallow water. It's what it's designed for, you know, and 2 foot or less. That's the deal. Swimming it still works. I know I'm going to have to go out there and just do for everybody here. I'm going to make a commitment. I'm going to take the peewee jigs that I got, and I'm at some point in the next few months, I'm going to go out and catch some fish on it, just because I haven't done it in so many years. I'm going to do it.
You need to shoot video of that.
I am. I'm going to shoot video of it. Yeah,
I'm looking for it.
I'll share it with everybody. But
that was the deal over there on Crab Orchard. People should take like a super light jig. Like it was before there was actually a swim jig. Before there was a swim jig, you know, people used to take that really light
16th ounce.
Yes, 16th ounce
skirt. It's all hand tied. Had a mustad hook in it. 4 and 5 off mustad hook. You take a number 11 Uncle Josh pork frog, and we cut the bottoms of it and hatch it, so then chew on it and make it, try to get it to flap good and crap. I mean, you name it, we've done it. That is as old school as it gets. God Almighty, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. That well put.
Crab Orchard used to have a bunch of those pencil reeds.
Okay.
That would come way out off the bank.
Really?
And those fish would get in those pencil reeds. So it's a sandy bottom, and you're looking at less than 2 feet of water, but those pencil reeds would come way out off the bank, and you would throw like a salt crawl. The Jean LaRue salt crawl was the deal, and like a really light swim jig.
Okay.
Back in the day, and this is when I really
paddle-tail worm. We put the paddle-tail worm a lot too on a 5/16 ounce weight with a 7 foot flipping stick. Imagine that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Pistol grip.
Crazy. Just about. Might as well be. Crazy.
Looking back, I had a couple pistol grips growing up, but I don't know how anybody ever set the hook with a pistol grip without breaking your wrist. I guess y'all old school guys were more of a man than I was, because there's no way that I could, take a 6.5 foot pistol grip. Now I can roll cast the heck out of a spinnerbait on Horseshoe Lake, but other than that, that was about it.
And I think they were like 5.5 foot long or 6 foot long.
Yeah, you couldn't have a rod longer than 6 foot at Horseshoe if you were throwing a spinnerbait around those cypress trees.
Yeah.
Good times. Those were invaluable lessons. And again, I made some great friends. Fred Washburn with Cottonmouth Lures. He's the one that kind of came up with the whole peewee jig deal. And he taught me a lot, just getting in the fold with all those guys. I mean, Scotty was part of it too. My team partner for many years, Mikey Galloway, and Dennis Heap and Duke Jinkle and all those guys. I mean, that's where I grew up, and I hope that Rick Cheatham, Scott Biggs, all of those. I mean, those guys pushed me to be better, and pushed me to drive to do what it is that I did. I think all the time about those tournaments I fished, on Crab Orchard and Little Grassy. And even though at the time, maybe I didn't look at them in as big a picture as what I should, but those were great times and valuable lessons, and kind of that whole experience. Those guys that are listening, that experience is a lot like what the elites are. You build that family, and you share things together, and that's what it's like being on the road all the time. And it's amazing where you just pick up little bits and pieces. When I mentioned before that when I went into that first Top 150 event, I got my butt handed to me. It wasn't like I had never fished in shallow conditions under cold front before, but I'd never fished for Florida strains in that situation before. But I grew up on crab. I say I grew up. I literally grew up learning to tournament fish on Crab Orchard and Kincaid and those areas and those lakes and Red Lake and getting it handed to me, probably more so than what I did well, and those were invaluable lessons, and it taught me. And then as I was able to get out and experience all this stuff, and it really, I related back to that stuff a lot, especially in the earlier years. And it was good times. I'm telling you, it was going to all the boat shows and meeting all the people. That kind of, it's weird how life prepares you. You don't understand it at the time, but like, when we went to all the shows with Cottonmouth Lures and all that and did all those things, it prepared me for what basically I did on the elite side and on the professional side, with all of the classics and the boat shows and the seminars and the appearances and being able to talk to people. And luckily I'm not that great at it, but I've never been I've never been intimidated by large crowds or anything of that nature. So maybe that helped me along the way, just kind of gave me a little bit of an advantage to hang in there, maybe over some of the other guys that struggled with that.
Did you get a picture of a peewee jig?
I did. From Gabe.
I don't know if it'll show up.
Well, let's see.
Weesey sent you one?
Yeah.
Weiss.
Yeah. There you go.
OG, baby.
Yeah.
Good looking jig. I bet that dang thing did float. It's got a lot of skirt material.
And there ain't much lead on it. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frankie just posted. I do know Jesse Terraconte really well, and he's a good friend of mine. And I hated to see him go for the reasons that he had to go, but I certainly understand and can appreciate him taking care of his family. But great guy, unbelievable Florida fisherman, just unbelievable. Very knowledgeable, and he's really good at deep structure too. Even though he really is a stick in Florida, he can deep structure with the best of us. I promise you.
Any plans of making a return to the Southern Illinois area to do some fishing? Martin's thinking of Wren Lake possibility.
Actually, last year I was on Wren Lake for a few days, but I was crappie fishing. I had Jasper Hospitality guys there, or trips there, and had a big Jasper group there, and that was a lot of fun. Haven't been bass fishing on Wren Lake in years. Yes, I am going to plan on a trip to Southern Illinois very soon. I'm going to visit some of my old haunts. I want to go to Kincaid. I heard it's fishing really well this year.
Yeah.
And, just piddle around a little bit, see if I can still remember how to catch one there, and Wren Lake. And I actually, now that Crab Orchard's back full again, I've got to go ride it. I mean, I haven't been on that thing in years and years and years. So I am going to come back. I'm going to take a little sashay around, and if anybody's around, I hope you come up and say hi, because like I said, it's been a long time for me, and I can't extend the thanks and appreciation hard enough for you guys over the years. Everybody's stayed with me, followed me, support, commented, followed me on social media. That meant the world to me. It kept me going at a lot of times. And I knew that there was a lot of guys pulling for me that maybe didn't get the opportunity that I did. And that means a lot. It really does. I haven't forgot my roots. I haven't forgot where I come from. And, those guys really, literally, the fans and the support has made it all possible for me, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you still got a really good following in this area, which is really cool. There's not a lot of people from this area that have did what you've done. I mean, there's a few people. I'm thinking of, there's some McKinney guys that are kind of starting to make a little bit of a push. McCord won the All-American not too long, a couple of years ago. Yeah. I might be missing somebody else, but yeah, so it's cool to have a.
There's, Chris Grove fished the Elite Series for about years, and then there was another guy from Illinois, and I apologize for not being able to think of his name right out of the gate. I think he was from more the northern area. Illinois, for whatever reason. I mean, you know what I mean? It's not that there isn't talented anglers there, because I can promise you I know a bunch of them from Illinois, and certainly a bunch of them from Southern Illinois. But it's just one of the fortunate ones that got a chance to make a run at it. I'm good, bad, or indifferent. I just hope I I know I did at times, but I hope I didn't embarrass anybody. I tried my best. I promise you.
You made us proud, man. You made us proud. Jim's got this is something I want to dive into. And Jim, by the way, Jim sent me some jigs, and I took those jigs out to Kincaid, and good jigs, man. Good jigs. I caught some nice fish on them. He's wanting to talk about the new. So you've retired from the Elites, but you got all kinds of things coming up in the future, and one of those is the FutureCast Academy. So that's really cool. I heard a little bit about it on BTL when you were on there talking to Panger, but talk a little bit about that. Let the people out there know what that's all about. It sounds like a really cool deal.
Well, I was inspired by a lot of different things and a lot of different people, but as some of you may or may not know, I mean, I was involved with the Pinckneyville High School fishing team very early on, several years ago, before IHSA ever sanctioned anything, and I really enjoyed that opportunity to be able to be with those anglers of that age at that time. We did it to help them develop their skill sets for wherever they went in life, and to share some of the knowledge that we had, which wasn't that much at that time, and to keep them out of trouble in the summertime if they, idle hands, type thing. So that's why we started the fishing team in Pinckneyville. I had to leave that after a while. It just got too much with my travels. And then whenever I moved to Missouri, obviously it was not possible. I've done some work with some high schools along the way over the years. But now, what I want to do and what I'm going to do is we started, when I say we, there's 4 of us involved in this that are the 4 founders of FutureCast Academy. And it's me and Snowden.
Okay.
Are 2 of them. And then Dave Mansu, who also fished at the top 150 level for several years. And then a guy that's from this area, local area. He's a little bit more multi-species, but he's still a competitor. He still beats. His name's Billy Elbert. And we come up with the idea that we wanted to provide a coaching opportunity for anglers of all ages and share our knowledge with them, not just in a guide situation or a guide trip. That is, we all do that, and we will take people out if they just want to catch fish. That's fantastic. But especially for me and Snowden and we've experienced an awful lot over the time frame, that we fished at the highest level of the sport. And this sport does not have the coaching opportunities that baseball, football, basketball, hockey, it just doesn't exist. And, for a lot of different reasons. So we decided to form a company that would address that. We're going to put on not just your average fish camps where anglers would come in for 1, 2, or 3 days. This is going to be, and we're still in development of all the different things that we're going to offer, but we all sat down and decided, okay, we get requests for electronic classes, we get an education, and we get all of these different scenarios going along that's kind of coincides with our guiding services that we have. And what I wanted to do, my vision was to provide the coaching opportunity and to expand on that for team partners or for anglers that just don't have the time to spend all those hours on the water. So we decided to form FutureCast Academy, where we're going to do it for anglers of all ages. And it's going to be available for anybody, and it's going to be an extended thing. So it's not only going to be hands-on and on the water and classroom. It's going to incorporate a lot of different things, from conservation to fish care to teaching you how to fizz, teaching you a few mechanical things on the boat, but also obviously patterns and working on through that. Now, all that can't be done in 3 or 4 days, but we also want to offer the opportunity virtually now, since everything has, since COVID's taught us that that's so important. There's going to be coaching and mentoring opportunities where we can stay in touch with those anglers and work them through problems, or help them with bodies of waters they haven't been on, and where to start, and patterns that are prevalent, things to work on and to look for. And that's what that's what FutureCast Academy is about, is to provide some unparalleled training to some of these anglers, no matter what their aspirations are. I mean, and I never really grasped, I guess, the interest that it might generate. And I don't know that I still do, but I've already had inquiries from people all over the nation. I realized that there was a lot of anglers out there that had either parents or guardians or partners, or this scenario go on and on and on, that may have the ambition and the drive and the focus, but they don't maybe have the resources available, or they don't have the experience that they need, and they want to get better. And I feel like that I can help anglers get to the point, however far they want to go, whether it's to ascend to the next level, whether that be to the high school teams, to the college teams, whether it be the novice angler that just wants to get better at catching fish, whether it wants to be, you name it, the guy that wants to go pro. I mean, I know the marketing aspects of it now. I know the sponsorship sides of it now, the academic and non-academic, and I know I've been exposed to a lot of the different areas of lakes across the nation that all of the opens and qualifying events are going to be on. I've been on them multiple times. So we're going to offer that up. And that's where it's going to be. Me and Snowden have nothing to hide anymore. We have nothing to keep close to our chest. We want to share that knowledge and experience that we have gained with the anglers that are interested. I've actually, in the last 2 weeks, I've already had a couple of parents from Tennessee, the East Coast, Texas, reach out and already have brought their kids to me to spend time with me on the water and then to mentoring them going forward. So I don't know. Like I said, everything's kind of happening at a very accelerated pace for me right now. We're trying to stay on top of it. We've been developing FutureCast Academy's website, take care of all this stuff. Now we've already met several times, us, the 4 founders, and decided how many times a year we're going to do for age group X, and then how many electronic groups. I've got guys flying in from California that are team partners that want to get better at structure fishing and grass fishing, and we have the opportunity to take it nationally as well. So it might be a little bit of a big undertaking, but I think I'm up for the challenge. And so that's kind of where I'm headed at with this stuff. I want to share the knowledge and the experiences that I've had over the years with as many people as I can. And I think Snowden and Dave, and I've aligned myself with some outstanding people, I can tell you that. Dave's a 30-year retired detective from West Windsor, New Jersey. He's my neighbor, one of my best friends. I trust him with anything that I have. Snowden, same way. I've known him for such a long time. He's fished the highest level of sport, great angler. And we all have different approaches. And that's what's really cool about the whole thing. Billy, he's multi-species. He really spends a lot of time, is really good with trout, crappie, and bass. So we're trying to be diverse. It's a little bit in the beginning stages. I've already had a lot of people reach out already. Some of them take place, but yeah, so that's kind of where I'm headed. That in a nutshell. I hope I didn't bore you guys.
No.
I think
exciting,
man.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
I was just thinking here, do you have a blueprint laid out, or is the blueprint laid out as the individual or the team comes to you?
So part of the process is we have to vet the applicants, because everybody's skill set's going to fall at a different level. It's just a fact. So we're still trying to work some of that out. Actually, we're going to do a dry run in September. We're going to invite 12 people to come to the class, and we're going to start our processes. But part of that is vetting them, then pairing them, and then preparing the class curriculum to advance them to where they want to go, finding out what their goals are, and then finding out what the needs are, where they're at, and going forward. Because I know from all of the different people that I've been around and guided and been in the boat with, that everybody is on a different level. And until you actually basically have them go through a vetting process or a combine, you don't know where they're at. they don't know where they're at a lot of times, you know. So that's where we jump in. We're going to differentiate ourselves from most people.
So is this going to be strictly a classroom environment, or there actually going to be time on the water as well?
It's half and half, actually.
Okay.
So the big scenario that we have, so we're going to have, initially, we're going to start with 2-day classes. It's going to be over the weekend. On Friday evenings, we're going to bring people in. We're going to have a meet and greet and a vetting process on Friday evenings, 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours. Then on Saturday, half of those people, depending on the vetting process, will start in the classroom. Half will start on the water with instructors. At noon, we'll switch them. And then the next day, the same thing. Half in the classroom, and then switch them. So it's 50% on the water, hands-on, 50% in the classroom, at least to start. You know, with some of the other classes, it will be a little bit different depending on what the objective is.
Sure.
So, you know, you get somebody that's a well-established angler that's been competing for years that just wants to get better at a certain technique or on certain bodies of water, then that's what that entire class will be geared to, and more than likely it'll be completely on the water.
I think that's exciting, man. I was sitting here like brainstorming all the different scenarios that could play out. The different you could be just specialized in a technique. You could be patterning fish. You could be how to attack different kinds of lake. You could be grass, docks, all the different things that you run into when you're out there fishing different lakes around the country. And then, I mean, etiquette, how to drive a boat, how to flip, pitch, punch, skip. I mean,
I was going
endless.
the other side of that. Well, two other sides of that. You mentioned one of them. What to do when you get back? How to spend your time if you're trying to be a pro? How do you spend your downtime?
Like tackle prep,
yeah, things like that.
And it is from tackle prep, tackle selection,
right?
You name it. So many people waste so much money on tackle selection, and it's just mind-boggling. It's everything from, you know, boat positioning, how to set your boat up, with everything from your steady cast to external GPS antennas versus internal graph placements, sourcing your units, you name it. It's all going to go into that classroom education experience. Right. So
and then you got the marketing side too, like how to market yourself as a professional angler. That's probably 50% of your job or more.
So many anglers run out there and all they want to do is get sponsors. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine if that's where you choose to start. It's not where I think you need to start, but at the same time, if that's where you choose to start, fine. But then there's certain questions you have to answer and certain things you have to be provided. And then what is your end game? There's just what's going to be expected. The roadblocks are going to be hit with. What type of companies are you going to approach? How are you going to approach them? What they're going to expect? What's your social media push? What is your post? What type of angler and personality do you want to project and establish within this industry? It goes on and on and on and on. And, you know, I'm not going to choose that for them. I'm going to expose that information to them. And if they help me in the vetting process, then I'll start narrowing it down. You know, there are kids that there are anglers. I don't mean kids. There are anglers of all ages that think that they can go right into the Toyota series and they don't have a clue what they're fixing to go into. And they're going to spend thousands of dollars to come out of it without even as much as an educational experience. And that's where I think I can step in and help. You know, you're going to get something out of it one way or another. And this is what you can expect because I've just about walked down every road that you can imagine. On the good sides, on the bad sides, at the BFL level to the highest level in the sport. So we've actually even talked with college coaches that recruit about putting on a combine already. So I know that we have a lot of really cool things to offer to that people are interested in, you know, to help them catch more fish, be better anglers. And that's what I want to do. I want to share my experiences. I want to teach. And I think that it's not limited, and it is on a slide scale. There's no one set business plan that can run this through, because everybody's at a different level and everybody has different objectives and goals. And I think with that mindset, the cool part about it is that I'm gaining enough interest from big corporations that I think I'm really going to be able to work. My biggest obstacle is going to be able to offset the cost and expenses so that I can pass it down the line. And I think I'm getting the right people interested in this to help do that. So it's
well, that expands your reach too. What you just said, that little piece that you just touched on at the end, that expands your reach to folks that may not be able to do it today.
You know, just because if you don't have $2,000 or $3,000 to be able to experience a coaching scenario, then how can we get you in it? Right. You know what I mean? And that's what my main focus is, and that's what my objective and my part in FutureCast Academy is, trying to be the visionary to try to establish out constantly where we're going to go. Do we need to go nationally? And if we do, where are we going to go? Who are we going to be involved with? Who's our instructors going to be? Locations, logistics, all that, and then also the relationship with corporate to help drive that cost, or to sponsor those people, or whatever the case may be. So it's not going to be for the rich and famous. That is not going to happen. Not on my watch. It's not going to be that way. I want everybody to have the opportunity to it, because that's what this sport does. This sport allows anybody, no matter if your physical makeup, your gender, it doesn't matter, to be able to participate and enjoy it. And that's what I like about this sport. Doesn't, you know, I'm 5'10", 190 pounds. I'm not going to be a center for a college football team. That's obvious. Okay. But
you might be one time. Hold on. You might be one time.
For a very short time.
One play.
One play. You got one play in your chest.
I don't even know that I'm going to stay one play. I got to be honest. I'm probably going to leave. But,
Water boy.
Yeah, water boy. Exactly. No, I think he was in more than one play. Yeah. But that's kind of where I'm trying to take this thing, you know, and it's gaining a lot of speed right now. So I'm pretty excited about that. We've obviously pushed the timeline forward because of my announcement here a couple weeks ago. And yeah.
That's exciting. I like the fact what you just said there at the end is it's not for the rich and famous. It's going to be for everybody. And that just shows that you're remembering your roots. And how many guys out there, you know, I look back when I was 25, when you were 35 making this jump, if you had somebody to tell you, hey, don't do this, do that. Go down this path instead of this path. Hey, I wouldn't go after that endemic or non-endemic. I would go down this path. How valuable could that information be? Like you said, you and Snowden, you have nothing to hide. It's all out there now. So yeah, I think back that could be.
Is it going to be centered around Table Rock Lake?
Well,
now, at least
to start, it will be.
Okay.
Gotcha. I've already been reaching out though to try to expand it nationwide. I mean, I'd love to get into Alabama, Texas really quickly. But at the same time, so here's what the cool part about where we're at here at Table Rock Lake and Branson. We are going to try to, there's so many families that are involved in this, right? Okay, so no matter where you're at, whether you're a father, son, or a mother, daughter, it doesn't matter the makeup, parent, sibling, I don't care. If there's other family members that want to kind of be a part of it, but don't maybe scared of fish, we have an absolute perfect situation here because of what I have in my backyard. I have Branson, Springfield, Johnny Morris with Bass Pro Shops, the museums, the aquariums, all the water parks, Branson with all the shows, you name it, tons of lodging available, things to do. It's going to be a family affair if they choose to have it to be that way. And so you can bring the wife, the daughter, the sons, whatever. And then whoever chooses to take part in the class can. And then there's always something here while they're doing that for the rest of the family to do. And we're trying to set the whole class up so that that promotes that family togetherness time. You know what I mean? And so obviously that's here. You know, now if we go to Alabama or Texas in a remote location, you have the attraction of the fishery. It might be a little bit different clientele base that we're going to be dealing with there. But let's face it, I mean, some of those states, everybody's got a bass boat. I mean, by the time you hit 5th grade, if you ain't got a bass boat, you're working on getting one.
That's right.
That's right. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I was the same way. So,
well, let's be honest. Logistically, you can get to Springfield, you can get to Branson from pretty well anywhere in the nation.
It's not a bad. It's not a bad location. There are better, but it's not bad. But
I'm saying for air travel, if you're coming from the West Coast to the East Coast, you can fly in.
Yeah. So I see some of the people are asking. Yes. So FutureCastAcademy.com is going to be the website. It is up, but it's just coming soon. Is all it's posted there. For further information, for anybody interested, you can obviously personally message me at Chad Morgenthaler or CC Morgenthaler on social media. My email is chadmorgenthaler@gmail.com. But at the same time, we'll be live with that website probably within 2 to 3 weeks. We are in the final stages of it. As a matter of fact, before I came on tonight, they sent me the final approval. We've been working on that thing for a long time, so we'll have some information available very, very, very soon.
Let's see here. Resort base location. Top secret location.
Resort base location. What are you guys looking at?
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
You type in academy.com.
Yeah. I don't know. That'll come down the road. So I'll put links to that actually in the show notes here when I get off of here, so you guys can check that out. That's exciting, man. I'm excited for you. Let's see. Let me read this question here before I post it. I'll do sport.
Yeah, I just typed it in. So there's basically all it's up right there. FutureCastAcademy.com coming soon.
Oh, that's sweet. I like that logo.
So what we did was we designed the logo with the Table Rock Lake in the middle of it. But if we go national, we'll put the different lakes that we're on in that fish.
Sweet. Okay. I like that, man. I like that a lot. That's good. A logo is so important. A good logo is so important. Well, Norb says, what part of the lake? What part of the lake will you guys be going out of for your on the water training?
So we are in negotiations with about 3 different locations right now, but all of them are pretty much in that Cumberland City Mid-Lake area. So we want to have to have a location that has the ability to have classroom settings or bays or large enough areas. We're looking at several different places. Plus, we're going to provide opportunities for lodging too. So we'll provide recommendations, I guess, for anybody that's pertaining to the class. So yeah, about Mid-Lake is where we're going to go out of, but it's not limited to that. You know, if we do a specialized electronic course, it may be out of Cape Fear, or we may do, which is up to James, or we can do one out of Shell Knob, or we can do lower end. The good part about where I live is I'm only about 15 minutes from any of that. As is Snow, because he's right across the road, and Dave's literally right across the road. So 3 of us are right here.
Nice.
It's a bad street to live on if you're a bass. That's for sure.
So I have to ask, like, well, you're going to have all these different curriculums, all these specialized classes. Are you going to have maybe a class to let people know in case they come across a Sasquatch? How do you handle yourself out in the wild if you run across a Sasquatch? Is that possibly one of the classes that you're thinking about having?
Well, because we've had Sasquatch sightings in the area, that's a good question. That's probably something we need to incorporate into that.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that should probably be on day 1.
Would that be an instance day 1? day 50. I don't know.
That's part of the vetting. I think you gotta find out what their
comfortability is in that situation.
What their vibe is on that.
If they're comfortable with it, well, then maybe you can push it back.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be really interesting.
I'd like I like the higher numbers myself. The higher days.
Like anyway. Towards the upper end of that, huh?
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. I wonder
who picks up on.
Hey, Cody Huff.
We could lay it on any thicker right now.
Cody Huff had a Sasquatch sighting down there.
He did.
Bull. He was leaving a night tournament. We're early in the morning, and something came across the road in front of him. True story.
Yeah. Cody sees things a lot.
Cody sees things a lot.
Actually, so anyway, if you guys haven't picked up on this, you might want to start guessing some numbers at this point.
Oh, they are. Don't worry. I'm going through it right now. You don't need any more numbers.
They're rolling.
All right. Come on. Make me proud. Somebody win that thing.
The problem is you got to go.
Chad's throwing in a 12-inch Garmin live scope.
Oh, yeah.
Just for tonight only.
Hold on. Hang on. Stop. Let me log in here.
Wait, I bet Chad knows the number to pick.
Yeah, you're gonna win your own prize. Yeah.
So speaking of Garmin live scope, what's the advantages that 34?
Yeah, 32 versus 34.
Okay, good question. I've had the 34 for about a month and a half now, and the 34 is a larger transducer. It is compatible with if you have a 32 already, all you have to have is a transducer. You do not have to have another black box. You really have to update your software to 20, and that has issues right now, okay? But at the same time, the 34 is a bigger transducer by about 10%. It has bigger elements in it. What that's doing for us is better target separation. So I'm able to pick up. So as you know, probably I've been walleye fishing lately on table.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. But literally those things are glued to the bottom. So if I can't measure it, but literally if I can, I dare to say I can see them laying on the bottom, but I think I can see them laying on the bottom because I'm catching them when I see them. Mm-hmm. Okay. So target separation off the bottom, from trees, in brush piles, it's all better. Also, because of the increased size, we have larger elements. They're about 10% longer. Now, before with my LVS 32, and I felt like I had it pre-dialed in with all the filters and the color, the color gain, the gain, TVG, noise rejection. I had it all dialed in about as good as you can get it. I could see my bait at about 55 to 60 feet, 65 on a good day. If it was a big bait, like an A-rig, okay, I might see it hit the water at 70, depending on how I had it turned and located. With the 34, I have it set on 80. If I throw a drop shot at 80, I watch it hit the water and I can follow it all the way to the bottom, no matter how deep it is. So we now have the ability for longer distances. And for those of you who don't know, 80 to 90 feet for the most part is a normal longer cast.
You're right.
That's
it is
where you're going to range. Just as far as how they've got it gridded out on the unit, I haven't pulled a tape measure on it, but as far as what your markings are, that's where you're going to throw almost every time if you're leaning into it. And now we can see it out there no matter what size the bait. So it's definitely more sensitive, and basically it's the same as the LVS 32, the settings, basically. You have to tweak it just a little bit. But so I'm going to say they were pretty spot on, Garmin being they. It's 30 to 35% more intense or sensitive than the 32. And it seems, so, here we've got a lot of different species. So right now I'm catching fish in anywhere from 20 to 40 feet, mainly 20 to 30. Some of them are on the bottom, depending on the structure. Some of them are suspended. But I can tell the different species shapes easier with the 34 than I could with the 32. Before, with 32, I could just tell it was a fish. It might look like a diamond or a tic tac out there, and I knew it was a fish. But now, fishing from the whites to the bass to the walleye, I can just about tell you which one's which.
Okay.
With the 34. They just have a different appearance. So
we have a winner.
We do have a winner, so you guys can stop guessing.
And Andy Leonard, 198. That was the number.
Andy! Me, Andy, 198. Yeah, that's what I come up with.
Somebody was picking up what you were putting down.
Putting down what you were picking up?
Whatever.
Picking up what you're putting down, one or the other.
Sniffing what you're stepping in.
So what pallet? Okay, so back to the target separation on the 34 versus 32. That's exactly what I've heard of. I just had a conversation with my buddy Lance. We fished down at Kentucky Lake this weekend, and he is running the 34. And that's exactly what he said. He said you can see the fish in a brush pile a lot better with the 34 than you could with the 32. And he's been running, he just started 2 weeks ago. He started running that blue pallet because he's saying that he can see the fish even better in the brush piles. I guess I'm not really sure. I put that on there, but I haven't really, I keep going back to the amber because I like a better picture, So yeah. What color palettes are you typically using?
I use two. I use black emerald and I use blue.
Okay.
I use.
So we need to try that blue a little more.
And black emerald will pop the fish really well, especially if they're on a ledge, suspended. You got to be careful because it's a hot pallet. If you get your gain up too high, you get a lot of blowback, and you get a lot of blending. But the black emerald is the one that everybody's eye is different. And I tell everybody this, I'm like, you've got to go through that color schedule. And you've got to look at all the different ones. But 90% of the people light on the black emerald or the blue, depending on the type of fishing they're doing.
Okay.
So for those folks that, and I'm going to this is a selfish question, Chad. For those folks that don't have access to that 34 yet, and we're still operating on old school technology, what were your settings? Do you remember?
So with that one,
I use 32.
Yeah, with the 32, I use it. It varies for trolling motor and your setup.
Okay.
For mine, I'm running a Garmin Force trolling motor, and I run a 12 Echo Map. And with the 32, your gain that's on screen should run somewhat similar to the range of 55 to no more than 65. If you do, you're filtering it out too hard with noise rejection or TVG, and then you don't have your color gain up high enough. There's a couple of things there that get a little tricky. They work against each other if you're not real careful. So you have to go up in little steps, like with your color gain, and then a color gain and gain are two completely different animals. That's
for sure.
And now they have color limit depending on the software that you have. The color limit's another filter. And depending on the trolling motor you have with the noise, the brush versus the brushless. So the Ghost and the Force are brushless. The Ultrex is got brushes in it. The brushes will provide more feedback, more blowback, more interference. So you might have to turn your noise rejection up a little bit. When you do that, you got to realize you're filtering stuff out. So it becomes a trial and error scenario once you get the basics. You can start at the default settings, but then you're going to have to get off of that. It's just not possible to dial it in without. That's why, honest to goodness, everybody's setup is just a little bit different. I'm not doing this for anything other than that's why a lot of guys just have me go to the water on their boat. Just go to my unit, see where I'm at, get me dialed in as good as it can be, and then explain it to me. and let me see what I'm looking at. And that's what I have to do. And then I can help them pick out the color palette that their eye pops best with. I explain to them about the hot palettes, about the filters and everything else. And it's just not something that there's one setting for everything. That's why they have all those menus in there,
Yeah.
But it's not that difficult. It's really not. Once you grasp the concept of it, trust me, if I can do it, anybody can do it. But you know how it is. I mean, sometimes whenever you lay hands on and you're on the water with somebody and you can see it firsthand, it makes all the difference in the world.
Right.
Yeah. Thoughts on the turret versus mounting it on the trolling motor?
Good question. As most people know, Mega has come out with this target lock now. I actually told Garmin 4 years ago that if we had target lock, we'd own the industry, and they didn't deal with it.
Yep.
So we don't need we need spot lock, but we need target lock worse. And so evidently Humminbird's come out with it. But at the same time, with live scope, it's superior to anything else, in my opinion. It's out there, especially with the LVS 34. It's the picture. I've seen them all. So it's not like I'm just throwing that out there. The turret, so for a guy like me, I've run them both. The turret is too slow, and I am so trained of looking with my trolling motor. So I have 1 foot on the deck, 1 foot on the trolling motor pedal, and I can scan back and forth, left to right. And that's what I do all the time. I'm constantly scanning with that thing. The turret now offers 2 separate buttons off to the side, and most of them are motorized. So now you have to have 1 foot on the trolling motor to be able to advance your boat or to turn the boat, and then you have the turret, and it's slow. The trolling motor is fast. It reacts. So is the Ultrex and the Ghost. They all react a lot faster than the speed on the turrets. And then trying to lock it back on. Personally, I've had 4 guys now brought their boats to me to take them out, and then they had me take their turrets off and put their transducer back on. Whenever I explained to them, like, I can't. Half the time I was on my knee trying to operate the turret with my hand because I couldn't do both. If there's any waves or anything going on, it just creates an unstable situation. You can't hardly do it all. Maybe it's just me. I know some guys that do like it. They probably fish a lot slower than I do. They probably don't scan side to side quite as often as I do.
Right.
But since we don't have target lock and you have to fight spot lock, I prefer the quick movement. I like to be able to access my target, stay on it, and move back. So that's why I prefer the trolling motor the transducer on the trolling motor shaft. And referring to that, it's even best. You're going to get your best picture if you have that transducer on the head of the troll or on the foot of the trolling motor. And they have a bracket to do that, that puts it on there with a clamp, rather than 6 inches above, because you do get some ghosting that goes on whenever you hit that head of that or that foot of that trolling motor with the beam that's directly underneath you. So to maximize that transducer and to be able to not have it pop out of the water, or if you get waves or big water, it's best to have it on the head, right where the prop's at, and you don't have any interference that way. But it is susceptible to get more damage to it, so be aware of that.
That's good. I actually, somebody on my YouTube channel asked me that same question last week about putting it on the head versus on the shaft. And my comment was, I'm not really sure, other than I know that if it's on the head of the trolling motor, it's going to be more susceptible to run into when you get your bait hung up and you're going in to get it off the rocks or something, you're going to hit that transducer on the bottom of the lake, or if you hit a stump or something where it's up on the shaft, it's kind of protected. But
well, you won't hit it on the bottom of the lake because it sits on the side of the head of the trolling motor.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So it doesn't extend below. There's a question up here about a pole, and they do have manual poles. My dad actually has one, and it's he crappie fishes a lot, so it works really well on his. I've ran it by hand. That is better to me than a turret, but still, I'm not casting. I'm bass fishing. So if I was pan fishing, it'd be different. The pole, I think, works well for panfish because you're not especially if you're doing like long poles, stuff like that, structure fishing. It's not as imperative that it's the most cast that you can make and be as accurate as you can make. I have to have both my hands free to make my cast pitches to the distance that I want while I'm running the trolling motor and I'm locked on that specific target or that fish. So the poles will work just fine. It kind of depends on the species that you're targeting. I think depends on how efficient it is.
South Jersey, good to see you in here. You can go check out the playback. We covered a lot of ground in here. Covered a lot of good stuff. I was going to ask you, we're coming up on 2 hours. We'll shut this down here before too long, but ICAST is coming up. Any new products or things you know of or you can talk about from any of your sponsors?
There is something that's going to be out there that I think are going to be pretty cool. None that I really can talk about right now. Kind of
okay.
Teased it really good. They're like, we're going to get something juicy.
It's going to be really, really good. But
even though I'm not fishing the elites, I'm still under contract by a lot of companies till the end of the year, and part of. Sorry,
I understand.
No, you're good.
There's some pretty cool stuff coming out. It always is. It always is.
Yeah, it's always exciting.
I think BTL Day talked about that the other day. It's a lot of it's that I think it was Ken Duke was on, and they talk about the wow factor.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's that the tarantula or something like that wins
duck,
the best of ICAST, but in all reality, the Cinco is probably the best lure that could come out of a trade show like that. Obviously, Cinco's been around for years, but it's
or the quiver.
It's the
the new magic worm out now. For you finesse fishermen, that deal is legit. I'm telling you, that new magic worm from Missile that Robo Worm and Missile are making together.
Really? I didn't know about that yet.
Oh, yeah, it's legit. Is
it a little straight tail worm or?
It's like a magnum size Robo Worm.
Really?
Okay.
Same material?
It's soft, pliable. It's got a
Really?
lot of action. It's got some phenomenal colors. Yeah, I've used them for about 2 or 3 months now, and I have caught a tremendous amount of fish on them.
Now, what was this called?
Magic worm.
The magic worm.
Here's a question. Daniel says, do you think these baits that are already out and the only thing new is a different color, should they be allowed at ICAST?
No, I don't. I think that it should be innovative products. ICAST is in design for manufacturers to meet with retailers, and that's really what it's about. So that's why they incorporate a lot of their old stuff with just new colors, and then they'll come out with color specifics like for just Bass Pro or for just Tackle Warehouse or a certain retailer. And I don't think that warrants a new product or best in show nomination myself. I think
best in color.
Yeah,
that's not
exactly. I mean, how many creature baits can we come out with here?
Well,
you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
You said it a while ago. I mean, bait selection, saving thousands upon thousands of dollars of not buying 400 different colors of,
keeping it
plastics.
Simple.
Keep it simple.
We all look for that. We all have our favorites, but at the end of the day, the starting point is the same every single time, and it's very small. And you can get started with just literally choosing the right bait for the job and getting in the right color family for that forage, that condition, that water color, that water temperature is crucial. And then once you become an established angler that spent a lot of hours on the water and you have money to spend on all that stuff, there's nothing wrong with coming up with a custom color or something of that nature that really works good for you. I mean, I've got some colors of baits that I really rely heavily on in certain times, but I've got still to this day, I still have my basics, my black blues, my bluegill colors, my blacks, my green pumpkins. You just you start there and then you kind of expand. But a lot of people don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
And they'll go out and buy, spend $200 on something that, okay, a fish can be caught on anything in any color, and I'm not going to discourage anybody from that, because there's a lot of cool stuff that I've run across over the years. But I mean, at the end of the day, like on the D-bomb, I've got about 6 mainstays that just about any conditions, depending on what it is, that's what I'm going to lean on. And they will maximize my catches. I promise you. I know it. I've proven it time and time and time again. And I'll try different stuff because I may have a new color, or I may have this, and I might run across one here and there. But day in and day out, there's a lot to be said about just having the basics and not varying too far from that. Worry about finding fish. It doesn't matter what color you're throwing. It doesn't matter what bait you're throwing. If you don't understand what those fish should be doing, what they're feeding on, how they're relating, and how they're changing on an hourly basis, you're going to be behind the 8 ball anyway.
If you could only have one color D-bomb for all conditions, all times of the year, what color would it be?
Bruiser Flash.
Bruiser Flash. Cool.
Because I would only catch a few of them during the bluegill spawns. But Bruiser Flash allows me, now it's D-bomb. Now you said D-bomb. Therein lies the difference. Okay.
Right.
The D-bomb, I'm going to put that thing in dark places. So that's where black and blue shines anyway.
Right.
Got a little bit of silver flash to give me a little bit more sparkle in it, but it's a confidence thing too. So for those of you who don't know, Bruiser Flash is black, blue laminate with silver flake in it. That's what it is. I'm going to target that in those dark, heavy covered docks, mats. That's where I'm going to put that bait, but that's where that color shines.
That's a good color in the Destroyer too, for people that like to punch mats down on the TBA.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a good one.
My second color would be Copper Chopper.
Copper Chopper.
Yep. It's green pumpkin with light blue swirls in it. Basically, it's blue crawl, basically.
I like dill pickle. Dill pickle is one of my favorite colors.
See, everybody's got but that gives me the bluegill advantage now. I can chartreuse tip that thing, and now I'm game on. But in real dirty water, I really can't get them to bite it as good as the black blue.
Yeah.
Right.
Which will still work good in clear water, because black and blue works good in clear water. It also works good in dirty water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
I like your strategy. That's a good strategy.
You can only throw black and blue in dirty water. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah, right.
But my favorite color jig would not be black blue.
Brown?
Bama Crawl.
Bama Crawl.
Yeah. Green pumpkin orange.
Yeah.
That'd be my favorite color.
That's not a selling thing at all.
Now, candy grass is real close because it's brown with green pumpkin and candy flake in it.
Mm-hmm. So
they would be between those two.
What about Superbug? I mean, that's probably the most popular color in the D-bomb lineup, I would guess. I hear about it all the time.
And I know guys that don't throw anything but that. And I have caught a lot of fish on Superbug, but it is not the one that I would lean on. It is not the one I lean on.
Okay. Copper Chopper, Bruiser Flash. I'm going with dill pickle. Black, man. Black's an overlooked color. Black. Not as many people throw black as they should. I know a black jig or a black worm.
So at the St. Lawrence River, since I'm not in the tournament, I can say this, but I mean, the last couple of years I've been there, black has been my main color.
Mm-hmm.
Solid black.
Green pumpkin, solid black or solid green pumpkin. And now I'll chartreuse dip the green pumpkin tail sometimes, depending on the light conditions. Yeah, black.
Well, when you were 35 and you started this endeavor, how many colors of worms were there?
Oh, let's see. There was red shad,
Uh-huh.
electric blue,
Uh-huh.
Purple with pink tail. I remember purple
green,
with pink tail.
watermelon red. There's about a dozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Now there's 200.
let me see. Did you catch fish back then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
South Jersey says, not sure if someone asked this, but what would Chad have liked to see on ICAST list that he didn't see? I'll tell you something, South Jersey, that I would have liked to see, and maybe it's going to come up in the future. And I'm talking to the guy that can maybe make it happen. Was something through Garmin on the live scope, that shoots an infrared beam, and it analyzes the brain, the pheromones in the brain of the bass to let you know if they're activated, if they're ready to feed, what kind of mood they're in. It transmits that information back to your graph, and blue is go, red is no, and then you just know which one's to cast.
I'm glad. See, I'm glad
it's got to be coming.
No,
up
I'm glad you picked blue on that, because us colorblind guys, if it was green, we wouldn't be able to see it flashing on that grass.
Right. So that's what I'd like to see.
I'm not sure what all is on the list this year, to be quite honest with you. The thing that I think that is going to be that I would like to see, and I've said this for years, they haven't done anything with it, but I don't, why we aren't looking at this forward sonar in basically a flat screen TV format, camera type situation is beyond me. I don't know why. It's there. The cameras are already there. I don't know why they haven't put that whole system together yet. That's just.
I tell you one thing that, again, you could make this happen, or you got connections at least. We have key fobs for everything else. Why not a key fob for like gain or just small micro adjustments? Have 3 or 4 key buttons on there around your neck.
Remote.
Yeah. You have a watch, maybe.
Yeah.
It's already on your remote.
On your Garmin remote?
Yeah.
You can do that?
Yeah.
See, that's why we don't have a Garmin trolling motor. We would have known that.
Okay. Yeah. We're running Ultrex.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So you can do that from your remote.
You're talking about you're talking about your gain. I'm talking about the gain for the trolling motor. So you're talking about the gain for the graphs.
Yeah.
You can bend down there and turn the little knob. You're just saying.
Yeah, it'd be.
I think they should have like
VR touch screen now, so it's all on the screen,
right
heads up. But I don't know why they couldn't do it. I mean, it's all Bluetooth, right?
Right.
I don't know why they couldn't.
I was watching a video the other night. I think it was last night. I was down here working out, and I was watching YouTube video, and they were talking about the recovery of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which was a big 600-foot tanker that went across Erie or Superior, one of the Great Lakes, and it sunk.
Mm-hmm.
And this was I think this was in like the 70s, but they found it with side scan, and they showed a picture. This is in the 70s. They were using side scan technology.
Oh, side scan technology has been around for a long time. The Navy forever.
There's no telling what kind of technology the military has right now.
Getting the transducer developed that could transfer onto the vessels that we have today.
Smaller, like shrinking it down.
That was the problem.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we watch a lot of those, like Northwoods Law, Backwoods Law. Well, not Backwoods Law, but the game warden shows. My son's really into that, and you see some of them dropping their transducer down for a side scan, and it's 4 or 5 foot long.
Yeah,
it's like a torpedo.
Mm-hmm.
So,
exactly.
That would sink our little boats.
Yeah.
So, any questions anybody's got?
Let me see. I'll scan through them here, and we'll sign out. Let me.
Well, we went through the whole, like the last 25 years and what the future holds. So I like it.
Andy says he likes the new Mini Max chatterbait in Gizzard Shad. He's been getting it done whether on pond fishing or lake fishing. I have not tried those yet. I've looked at them.
I haven't. I've looked at them. I haven't tried them yet. It's good to know though that they work.
Tim likes the bruiser flash pattern.
Nice.
Daniel is writing down bruiser flash pattern.
Yeah, I'm with you, Daniel.
For future purchases.
Every time we have one of these Monday Night Lives,
I want to talk to you right quick about that D-bomb deal.
Sure.
For you guys that fish heavily pressured waters, which a lot of us do now, I can tell you one of my main scenarios is until I feel my limit, I will flip with the baby D-bomb, and a lot of times on a half-ounce weight before I will switch over to the D-bomb. So don't overlook that small bait. That is a pee-wee jig mentality from Southern Illinois, but it gets the job done a lot of times, and I catch a lot of big fish on it. Well, in Florida, I caught my personal best at 13.7 on the baby D-bomb. But at the same time, even in the Midwest and other areas of the nation, that speed combination with that bait doesn't have a lot of drag. It doesn't have a lot of action to it. So if you got a little bit of clarity, say a foot, and you're flipping bushes or whatever, and you're struggling to get a bite, try that first, and then go to the bigger D-bomb. If you filled your limit out and you're looking for a bigger fish, it's not a guarantee that the bigger D-bomb is going to catch your kicker fish for you, but I can guarantee you the baby D-bomb is going to catch your limit faster than the big D-bomb will.
What weight are you flipping with on that?
A lot of there's two weights I flip on that bait: a 5/16 or a half-ounce. Those are the two I flip on it.
Okay. You caught some good fish and fork with that bait before too, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a 3/0 hook is all you want to use in the baby D-bomb. Do not get bigger than that. Use a 3/0 hook. Straight shank is what I use in that baby D-bomb. Peg that weight, and it's money. I'm telling you, I fish it here all the time. Mansu, when we tournament fish, team tournament fish, that's literally his all-time bait, and I'll fish the bigger stuff. I'll go to the bigger D-bomb, the destroyer, or a big jig, and try to catch our kicker fish. And a lot of times he'll just whale me behind me because I'll make him fish it behind me to catch those fish that won't react to those bigger baits that I'm presenting first. But if there is a bigger fish there, I want first shot at it with a bigger bait. So try that if you haven't already. It's money, I promise you. It's made us a lot of money doing it that way.
Here's another tip, and I'll share this with you guys out there. I fished a BFL Kentucky Lake this weekend, and I was fishing out the back of the boat. And my boater was throwing a swim jig and a chatterbait down some shoreline grass. And this grass was in the deep side of it was probably 2.5, and it went up to the bank. And we were fishing along a causeway, like a road bed, not a road bed, but there was a road and it was riprap, and this grass was coming out. I only caught one fish, but it weighed 5'6", and I caught it on a Ned rig, on a spinning rod. So back to the little baby D-bomb, little small baits can catch big fish, especially behind somebody that's throwing something more aggressive. That fish just let his stuff go by, and I flipped that little stupid looking thing in there, and it got heavy, and I set the hook, and here comes this big old head out of the water, and all hell broke loose next to the boat, and he missed it 3 times with the net, and we finally got it in, and ended up getting 11th place with one fish and getting a nice check. So little baits are good.
They are.
So, all right, we're gonna shut this down, man. This has been cool, man. It was good hanging out with you again. I'm really looking forward to the academy to see how that all shakes down. And if you need any help with anything, I'll do my best to promote it. And I'm sure it's going to be great. It's a great concept. It's something that's going to help out a lot of people, and everybody needs a coach, coaching life, coaching fishing, whatever. And best of luck, man. Stay busy. I'm sure you will.
I hope to. Again, thanks for having me on. It's great catching up with everybody. Thanks for everybody that logged on tonight and listened to the rambles here. But thanks again for all the support over all the years. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm just not fishing the elites anymore. So I hope to run across a lot of you guys on a little bit more of a personal basis whenever I'm back in Southern Illinois or wherever. So
Cool.
Thanks again.
Sure.
All right, Chad. We'll talk to you later then.
All right, guys. Thanks.
See ya.
Bye. Remove that. All right, man. That was good. That was good stuff.
Good
Stuff. If you guys are getting here late, go back and check out the playback. We covered a lot of ground. We covered Chad's career, his decisions, what he's got coming up in the future.
There was a lot of sneaky stuff in there too.
A lot of good little sneaky fishing tips that
Heck yeah.
just kind of made their way out there. Next week, Brian, what's up, brother? Good to see you on here, man. Good to see you on here.
You know what I'm excited about this
He's a
fishing
Ned
academy?
rig guy. Your little Ned rig paid off for me the other day.
I'm excited with Chad and Brian. They're going to be willing to expose a lot more.
Oh yeah.
Keep an eye on those YouTube channels.
Well, you've got, I mean, Chad's got almost 20 years professional fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Snowden's got at least that, probably more.
Right.
And Mansu, he was doing it forever. I mean, I'm just going to guess and say you got like 7 years combined experience.
Or
least.
more. Right.
And then the other guy that's on board, which that was a new name for me, but he's a multi-species guy. So you're got that coming into the mix. And just to be able to go to that thing and have hands-on training. I mean, I'm interested. I'm interested in doing it.
For sure. The knowledge
It's only a 5-hour drive from here.
Gain from all that, invaluable.
I used to go to those like the Bass U stuff. They used to have them in Springfield. It was a 2-day event.
Yeah.
And I went to a couple of those, and it was fun, but this is going to be smaller. It sounds like it's going to be more personal and like, one-on-one. Or
we were cleaning out some stuff at the house, and I found a notebook from one of those Bass U's that I went to. And it was, I think Denny was there. I think Ike was at that one. There was some really good names at that one. And that was back when we were just getting color graphs. I mean, so
I sat across from David Fritz. We ate lunch with David Fritz, and he had a big old chaw red man, and he was just talking about crankbaits and stuff. It was that to go to that class, and you could be sitting across from Morgenthaler or Snowden or something and having one-on-one conversations with these people that have been doing it forever and get those little insider tips, that stuff is invaluable. That stuff that takes 20 years to figure out. And then here you are.
Well, it may have taken them 5 years or a year to figure out, but they're going to let it out of the bag.
Right.
They're going to tell you. That's something that they held close for years and years and years, and now it's all out.
Here's a good comment right here. South Jersey says, yeah, Tim, I think it would just make it a little easier. He was talking about, somebody earlier said if they put an outline around the fish, so you could tell the fish versus the clutter. Plenty of times saw them, they thought they were fishing for bass, but they weren't. It's so I did that a lot. So crappie have a certain signature, shad have a certain signature, your bass, the bigger bass is what I've been learning how to separate a 2-pound bass from like a 4-pound bass. And what I've been finding is you get like a brighter return. It seems like it's a lot bright, almost like a sunbeam. That's a denser fish. It's bigger. So in the lakes that we fish, it's usually, like a 4 to 6 pound largemouth, or it's a striper or something, or catfish.
If it's about 10 plus pounds or more, it's a giant catfish sitting on top of a brush pile.
Right.
And it shows like a perfect return, looks just like a bass, and you throw that bait right across his head and he just smokes it. So it's but you're not really at 80 feet.
It's hard to tell.
You're not seeing, it's not an outline of a fish. You're just seeing a little line or a dot.
Right. It would be hard unless you're within like 20 feet to really have a distinct outline. And
I think the closest that I've seen actually a fish like go by my screen was at like 30 or 40 feet.
Yeah. See, to me, it's been 20. I was on Kincaid and I saw a muskie. And granted, this is a muskie, so it was probably a 40+ inch fish. But I really got to see that snake in action. And I was fishing crappie like in a treetop. And this thing just came snaking through. But yeah, it's hard you don't see much. You just kind of got to, I don't know. I'm still learning it, but
I am too. I think every time I go out, I learn something new. I'm still playing with my settings. That's why every time we have somebody on here that's a Garmin guy, I ask them what their settings are or where they're at, just to get a basis of where I'm at. And I got something new I'm going to try to this next weekend when I go out. see what I can do. And
yeah,
play with it.
Andy said he sees carp all the time on his. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can tell if something's like too big that it's probably not a bass.
Stripers seem to move a lot faster.
Stripers move a lot faster. That's right.
Especially those little bitty guys. They're just in and out of your screen. And then if you throw a bait near them, they're just all over it.
Well, I'd been setting my distance out to like 60 feet up until about 3 weeks ago, because I was just getting comfortable with that. So I had a perspective of what a fish looked like, the size of the fish, and some of the species. But I moved it out to 100 because I kept talking to Jonathan, and he's seeing his bait out there like 70 plus. And I wasn't really seeing it, but the reason I wasn't seeing it was because I didn't have it stretched out. I wasn't confident enough. So as I got a little bit more time behind it, I stretched it all the way out to 100 foot. And I don't know if you guys saw that. I gave a shout out to Mikey Balls catching that fish on the Ned rig. Well, I was messing with those fish at about 40 feet, maybe 30 feet. And I was just kind of reeling that net in. And this fish just came flying up off the bottom. And I thought it was like a 14-inch fish because I was used to, I had my, how am I supposed to say this? My reference hadn't adjusted to the
your eye was at, so for those that don't have it, your aperture, when you're out at 60, this is the frame that you're seeing. When
the fish are bigger.
Yep. When you go out a little bit farther, it's like taking 10 steps back and looking at the eye chart on the wall. And then when you go out to, if you went from 60 to 80 and then 80 to 100, you should take another 10 steps back. And now you're looking at that big E doesn't look as clear as it did when you were standing right next to it.
Right. So I was looking at this certain size return coming up after my Ned rig. And at 60 foot, that size of return would have been a 2-pound bass or a 14-inch bass or something. But since I had it stretched out to 100, that ended up being like a 5+ pounder that grabbed my Ned rig and totally surprised me when I set into it and my rod just loaded up. So that's what I've been working on is, being able to see my bait. I can see it now at like 80.
Are you seeing it splash?
Yeah. 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 I can see it.
So that's the biggest thing that I've learned is I can see my bait splash. And if I can see my bait splash, I can follow it from 100 in. But if I don't see it splash, it's hard to pick it up at that distance. I can usually get it about 50 or 60, but that first 30 feet, I don't see it because I'm trying to make that fine adjustment.
And what Chad was saying a while ago about 100-foot cast being a really long cast, it is. You got it set out to 100, and it doesn't sound like it's 33 yards.
Yep.
That's a long cast. I mean, you got to really chuck it out there to hit that 100-foot mark, and that's something else that I'm learning with live scope is, what's just a little average cast is really about 60 foot probably, and then you got to really get after it to get that extra 40 foot.
Well, a lot of times and we were talking about this earlier today, my foot and my hand are starting to become like one. Like I know where my foot's pointing and I don't have to look down and make that cast to see where my trolling motor head's pointing. But that just comes with, when I go to the lake, 6 hours of staring at live scope every trip, where your cast is going to land at. And a guy like Chad or somebody that's been doing this for years and years and years and years, they can probably get it down to that cast is going to go 42.5 feet and it's going to land right there on top of that bass.
Yeah.
So it's second nature. You're not thinking about it. It's just second nature.
Well, that's what Spencer Sheffield. I don't know, Andy, if you didn't see the live stream we did with Spencer Sheffield, I think it was 2 weeks ago. There's some really good live scope stuff in there, and he talks about just looking down and being able to cast exactly on top of those fish without even looking up. He's so focused on making the horizontal line and the distance.
That cast is at 60 feet or 65 feet. Where to land at. Andy, I do not have any trouble seeing my graph with my sunglasses. I wear Kosas, Gabe wears Bajios, so I don't think you have any trouble either, do you?
Nope. No, it hasn't been trouble.
The biggest trouble that I have is glare, but that's any graph. It doesn't matter if it's a live scope, if it's a Garmin, if it's a Lowrance, it's a Humber. Because I have a Lowrance and I have a Garmin stacked on top of each other. And I found yesterday I'd be not catching anything but staring at my live scope. and I'd just have to tilt my graph so the sun wasn't blaring right in my face. So
yeah, you're right, Tim. There's a ton of stuff to learn. Didn't mean to get on a live scope tangent here at the end, but I know something that was really cool the other day when I was at Kincaid is those fish were kind of sitting right outside the grass, that deeper grass that was 10 foot. They'd be just kind of roaming along the outside grass line there. And I was able to actually drop my jig just a little bit inside of that grass line and pull it out, maybe 1 or 2 pulls, and then get a few bites doing that. That's something that is super handy that you really can't do with traditional, side scan, down scan. You can when you're right up on it, but you can put the head of your trolling motor with that live scope, and you can look and see if there's any kind of grass points that kind of come out a little bit in front of you, or you can sweep it until you know right where you need to be to set that jig just a little bit inside the grass line. Mm-hmm. That's what's super handy about that. And you don't catch, you see a lot of fish. It's amazing how many fish are out there swimming around. I had no idea. Even Lake Gerardo here, which is like a garho. It's not a garho, but it's like the Dead Sea. There are fish everywhere swimming around in that lake. They're just so educated. They're hard to catch, but you don't realize until you have that technology how much is out there. But you don't catch them all the time. I mean, you can mess with them. That's probably one of the toughest things to do is to learn is to leave when they're not biting. You can sit there and mess with a fish for like 45 minutes and he'll never even bite. It's kind of like a bedding fish. If you get really good at fishing for spawning fish on beds, within 3 or 4 casts if that fish is catchable or not, and you might just need to leave and come back. But it's a whole nother world out there.
Our buddy Kyle said it the best the other day. 5 minutes live scoping can turn into 3 hours like that
easily,
because you just get so locked in on it and focused, and you can waste an entire day. But what I'm learning is the days. There's windows. There's days that are better than others. What we got?
The old folks home of 40 years, man. Amen, Brock. That's so funny.
Well, not only are we going to be all hunched over, but we're all going to have like skin cancer on the back of our necks from staring down at this thing. Man. The hooded sun shirts are the best invention ever. I mean, I got live scope and I got hooded sun shirts. I can't go to the lake without either one of them. So
that little mount, man. I saw I can't remember where I was at the other day.
Beat down.
Somebody had one of those extension mounts with like a 12-inch Garmin right there.
Oh. So I've been
pretty good idea.
I've been looking at the beat downs.
I think it was like $600 though.
The beat down is like $600, but you can bring it like tabletop. So I don't have to worry about having it on a key fob. I can adjust my gain just right here. But I mean, I'd probably knock that thing off, or I ended up setting stuff up there. You have like a little drink holder. I mean, it'd be like crappie fishing.
Yeah. So. Andy says the only grass they have down there is if you throw your bait in someone's yard and drag. I don't know, man. That lake gets up there pretty high though.
Where's he at?
Table Rock.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it gets up in the grass in the grass in somebody's yard, you better be up there fishing, because it's probably going to be really good.
Yeah, that's a big pattern.
That picnic table bite above the riprap bite, that's a good pattern.
Well, a lot of times that's the only way you can get to the fish. They're all back in the wood, but you come to like a nice manicured grass.
It's like a flat
for them. It's like a flat, a feeding flat. Yep. So, all right, man, we're going to shut that down. Next week we have Connor Cunningham. So he won the All-American, the BFL All-American this year. Have not met him, so I'm looking forward to that live stream. And he's with Crockett Gator, so we're going to be doing a Crockett Gator giveaway next week. So hopefully you guys, Kentucky Lake. Yeah, I know that's going to be coming back though, Andy. It's going to be coming back.
Hey,
Menendez was saying the eelgrass is going to come back.
Well, that high water bite down at Kentucky can be phenomenal. I fished it. So again, we're going to go off on a tangent here, but I fished it a college tournament, and it was like 11 feet, 12 feet high.
Oh, wow.
And that's
real high.
The Coast Guard just let them on like at noon, like boat traffic. They had shut boat traffic down for like 3 or 4 days because of the high water. And the water was just receding enough. We absolutely wrecked them.
When was that? 2011?
Oh, no. This is,
later than that?
It could have been 2010, 2011.
Because I was at the Jonathan Creek Bridge, and there's a high water mark. There's 2 high water marks right there. And I think one of them said 2011 and one of them might have been 2014.
It could. I'll be honest with you. It was one of the first times that I've ever been on the lake. So I didn't have any reference points where we put in what we found a ramp that we could get in. That's how high the water was.
Okay.
It wasn't like we went down to the dam and put in, and because I'm sure the dam was flooded at that point, 11 foot high.
Yeah.
So
2011.
2011. Okay.
Yeah.
But it was ridiculous. I was catching them off of, it was like the Ohio River on steroids. Like I was catching them off of washing machines, refrigerators, picnic tables, anything that was in the water, we just wrecked them on. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. That's fun. I'm sure I've got chesty footage of me being under that bridge, and I can probably see that marker. And I thought I'm glad that Andy said 2011 because in my head it was 2011. I think 2014 was another high water mark because it was lower,
but it was up there.
It was still pretty high, and it's crazy when you're underneath that bridge and like, man, there
and
was
you
water all the way up to there.
Yeah,
unbelievable. So Connor Cunningham, and after that we got a couple things lined up. We'll kind of touch on that as it gets a little bit closer. So great show once again. Reach out to Chad, blow up his social media, tell him you enjoyed the show, and wish him best of luck in his
give
retirement.
him a like if you're not following him. You probably already are if you are here.
Check out his Instagram, all that stuff.
That's what these guys do. We say it every week, but
It's good feedback.
They do this out of the kindness of their hearts, and they spend 2 hours with us on a Monday night when they could be spent with their families. So show them some love.
Exactly.
So,
all right, man, we're going to shut this down. We will see you guys next Monday.